All right, folks. Well, welcome everybody to our at-home table reading. We're going to be doing a reading tonight for Wesley Strick's draft of Superman Lives, written back in 1997 for director Tim Burton. So why don't we run through our cast and see who we've got coming to play tonight. Joining us at the top of the cast as our Man of Steel, Superman. Where's he at?
Right here.
Fantastic, hanging out right down there. As, of course, intrepid reporter Lois Lane. She is Angie hanging out right down there. Of course, their boss, Perry White. There we got Sam hanging out right over there. And helping them out in the bullpen along the way, we have Jimmy Olsen. Awesome. Right Curtis rocking right down there. Now, of course, every hero has an origin, and ours comes from Krypton. And there we see his father, Jor-El, played by Erik, rocking right over there. And we also have, coming from Krypton, the villainous Brainiac. So that'll be Joe hanging out right down there. And taking over our action description for the night, we have Tyler hanging out right down there. And in case you couldn't tell with all of this, I will be reading for Lex Luthor this evening. All right. Well, I think we are ready to start. So Tyler, take us away.
Superman, screenplay by Wesley Strick. The screen is black. Fade in on interior university corridor, late. A young professor hurries down the empty hall, hotly murmuring to himself, intensely concerned. A handsome man, about 30, but dressed strangely. Are we in some other country, sometime in the past or in the future?
Switched off. It can't be. But the readings. What else?
The young professor reaches a massive steel door, like the hatch of a walk-in safe. Slides an ID card that's emblazoned with the familiar-looking S shield. The door hinges open. The young professor pauses. He had not noted till now the depth of his fear. Then enters a university lab, late night. It's dark. The professor tries the lights. The power is off. Cursing, he's just got enough time as the safe door swings closed again to find an emergency flashlight. He flicks it on, plays the beam over all the bizarre equipment, the ultra-advanced science paraphernalia. Now he hears a creak. He spins. His voice quavers.
IAC?
His flashlight finds a thing, a translucent ball perched atop a corroding pyramid shape. It appears inanimate.
Answer me.
And finally, from within the ball, a faint glow. Slightly.
You unplugged me, Jor-El. Remember? Recall?
The young professor, Jor-El, looks visibly shaken.
I did what I had to, IAC. Your constant need for energy had become untenable.
I don't care for IAC, Jor-El. Initials for intelligence, artificial, cybernetic no longer say enough. So I added the word brain, because mine is so big.
Jor-El slowly edges closer, trying to determine where the thing is that is now getting its power, while humoring him.
Yes, it is. IAC, brain.
Brainiac.
Jor-El flinches. The glow brightens. Within the ball, a smirking, holographic humanoid face fades up.
And I did what I had to. I plugged myself in to the very core of Krypton.
Just as Jor-El's beam finds a metallic tentacle snaking from beneath the pyramid into a hole it's drilled through the lab floor, presumably to the planet's center.
As I feared, all the recent Templars, the four shocks.
Trying to control himself, but his voice chokes with rage.
It wasn't enough to steal from the university's nuclear reactor. Now you've destabilized our
The lab crazily shakes, another quake. Jor-El drops the flashlight, staggers back. Brainiac's hollow head rattles, precarious on its pyramid. In the noise and confusion, Jor-El grabs a torch. Behind his back, he flicks it on. A blade of flame shoots out as the shockwave subsides in a creepily friendly tone.
There's a simple solution, Jor-El. All you have to do is give me K.
Jor-El tries and fails to mask his stunned surprise.
Yes. All these months you thought I was switched off. I watched you at your workbench, creating the very thing I'm not. A perpetually auto-powered intelligence. A self-contained, self-sufficient, perfected model of me, K.
If that were true, and if I were to give you this K,
I'd have an infinite power supply, so I'd stop poaching from the core of your oh-so-precious planet.
damn right you'll stop.
He swings the torch out from behind his back, its flame slicing off the tentacle that bored through the floor. Brainiac howls with fury, then suddenly, terrifyingly rises to his full, towering height. The pyramid stand crumbles, revealing spindly, spidery, titanium legs.
Surprised, startled, astounded.
Jor-El stares up with horror at this huge cyber scorpion.
I grew these on my own, because I had to.
Jor-El backs away, panicked, bumping into things as Brainiac stalks him, lit by the dropped flashlight.
To you, I'm a failed experiment.
He lunges at Jor-El, who, desperate, ducks under those legs and runs for the door. Fumbling his card, he just manages to get it unlocked, but a tentacle, firmly planted, keeps the door from opening. Jor-El's trapped.
But to me, I'm a masterpiece in progress.
Now one more, even worse quake. Brainiac teeters, then loses his balance, freeing the door. And Jor-El races out of his lab for his life. Inside Jor-El's apartment, dawn. Jor-El's wife, Lara, whimpers as their penthouse on the 200th floor or so, judging by the vista outside, sways. The swaddled baby in her arms, Kal-El, starts to cry. Outside the wall-length window, we see the planet's sun, red as a child's rubber ball, just rising in the sky.
Come, Lara, there's not much time.
Gently coaxing his wife and baby upstairs, then over his shoulder,
You too, hurry.
addressing a glowing sphere that doesn't need a pyramid to stand, or tentacles, but floats, like Brainiac's head. It's weightless, shimmering, holographic. This is the pinnacle of Jor-El's scientific achievement. K. Exterior penthouse rooftop, afternoon. Dominated by two small rockets on twin launch pads, they rattle as they shockwave hits, looking for a moment as if they'll fall. Lara steadies herself on the railing with one hand, clutching Kal-El with the other, while Jor-El struggles on the swaying roof to open Rocket One's hatch.
In. Okay. Now, Lara, you and the baby.
I thought the family in one craft and Kay in the other.
What Jor-El led her to believe. Now time for truth.
Lara, I'm to blame for all this. This monster, Brainiac. He is in some sense my child.
While helping her and the baby into the craft.
No, Kal-El is your child.
Jor-El knows that, of course. Right now he is whispering a farewell message to his son while carefully strapping him in, making sure Kal-El is totally, utterly secure. He kisses his son's forehead, letting his lips linger longer, a precious extra second. Then, averting his face from his wife, Jor-El quickly wipes a tear as he assures her.
When I've done what I can, I'll use the second ship to join you. Kay will get you there unharmed. Above all, in my absence, he's programmed to safeguard Kal-El.
When, from behind, a tentacle wraps around Jor-El's neck and raises him 5 feet off the ground.
Where is it? Where's K?
Lara scrambles back out of the spacecraft, closing the hatch behind her to conceal and safeguard her son, then starts thrashing at the monster with her hands and feet. Brainiac drops Jor-El, then turns to Lara and sneers.
Why try to hurt me? I am your husband's firstborn.
While he taunts, Jor-El edges to the console, surreptitiously initiating a launch sequence.
Which makes me your stepson. Mother.
Then scuttles toward the craft. But just as Brainiac lays his tentacles on the fuselage, there is a shocking roar and a ring of fire below, and the ship, with its precious cargo, shoots into the sky.
My baby, Kal-El!
Jor-El presses Lara hard to him, forgetting himself.
Kay will always keep him safe.
For a scientist, you were always a sentimental fool.
He scuttles backward to Rocket 2, rushing at him.
You're everything Krypton wasn't. You must not survive its death.
Brainiac murderously lashes out with a tentacle, cutting him down. Then as he climbs sideways into Rocket 2.
History is rich with ironies.
Lara's screams are drowned out by Brainiac's launch as Krypton is rocked by the biggest tremble yet. She runs to Jor-El's body as the tower collapses, crushing her. Interior Rocket 2, Dawn. As it climbs, Brainiac uses his Mega Mechanovision to spot Rocket 1. He locks onto its trajectory when an apocalyptic bang lights the cabin so brightly everything is seen for an instant as an X-ray. Krypton explodes. The shockwave is more than Brainiac or his ship can take. The creature blacks out as his craft tumbles end over end, deep into the void. We dip to black, then fade up. Exterior, space, eternal night. Super up 30 years later, as a ship streaks across the screen. A different ship, in the shape of a sardonically grinning skull, its surface studded with victims' bones. Inside the skull ship is Brainiac. He's shrunken now, and testy as he tends to the menagerie of bizarre caged creatures collected over 3 decades of pan-galactic travel. To a 2-headed rodent.
You're hungry too? Here, eat.
Brainiac undoes one of his joints in lieu of actual food, tossing a peculiar-looking bolt to the freaky space rat. The left head gulps the bolt. The right head bites off the left head.
Fine, one less mouth to feed.
The better trained beasts, all mutant beings, perhaps crossbred for the purpose, skulk around as Brainiac's crew. He's a mix of Doctors Doolittle and Mengele. Now,
I need refined energy. Get me out of this backward galaxy.
but as North America comes into view, something catches his compound eye. As Brainiac zooms in on it, we hear a whirring sound like a camera lens changing focal length. What he sees as we go in closer to Metropolis, a Midwestern city with big cement-coned clouds spewing power plants on its outskirts. Intercut Brainiac.
Wait, these Milky Way non-entities have figured out nuclear fission?
He barks a revised command.
Set me down above the biggest of those power plants there. Hide our approach behind that comet to the east, and fetch my cape.
An obedient beast cringingly approaches with a floor-length velvet cape, bejeweled with colored lights, fastens it beneath his master's head, hiding his spider legs, making him appear powerful again. Meantime, Brainiac zooms in some more with his expanding Meccano eyes, reads the logo printed on a smokestack.
LexCorp. Here I come.
Interior LexCorp's conference room, afternoon. Lex Luthor, imagine the boomer love child of Robert Vesco and Leona Hemsley, holds a packed press conference beneath his slick double L corporate shield and a slideshow that stars the LexCorp solar provider satellite.
Equipped with microwave imaging capability, suggests that about 30 years ago, an extraterrestrial craft broke up in the atmosphere. One half crashed into the Arctic. We think the second, larger piece, landed somewhere in a town nearby of Smallville.
The many reporters busily jot notes.
How do we know it was a spacecraft, not say a meteor?
A panel of research scientists sits behind Luthor. One starts to answer, but Lex impatiently interrupts.
Heat, speed, molecular density, absence of cosmic debris. Next.
Mr. Luthor, is there evidence of an alien life form on board this craft?
The big question. This time Luthor sits, defers to his experts. A senior scientist rises and clears his throat.
Microwave imaging is still in its relative infancy, though we can...
With an alien life from aboard that ship, I'd bet my 27 billion.
The reporters marvel. The scratch of pens gets louder. Only one reporter isn't taking notes. He's just listening, albeit with a penetrating intensity as though this news had personal meaning. It's 30-year-old Clark Kent, bespectacled, square. We go tighter on him as we hear.
But did that life form survive the spacecraft's breakup in the atmosphere, its impact to the ground? Come on, it'd have to have been carbonized, vaporized, obliterated. He'd have to be another Superman.
Clark frowns, circumspect, then moves away from camera as he wanders through the crowd, continuing off screen.
Still, I'm sending teams to both crash sites. If we can recover 1 ounce of ET debris, well, in scientific terms, that ounce could weigh a ton.
Just as he reaches the exit, Clark is grabbed by Lois Lane, her beauty surpassed only by her ambition.
Trying to steal my story.
Oh, just phoning in background. Byline will be Lois Lane.
You bet your sweet associated press card.
and Clark exits to interior LexCorp lobby. Clark is on a payphone here, dialing the Planet. Intercut to the Daily Planet building. Crane down from the Rockefeller Plaza-era granite globe that is the great paper's symbol as the call is taken by.
Kent, what did Luthor say exactly?
Well, analysis of the data collected by LexCorp satellites equipped with microwave imaging capabilities seems to confirm that about 30 years ago, an extraterrestrial...
They land on White's corner office window, then go inside. His monitor shows a mock-up of the late edition front page. The headline, Board of Education Funding Fight.
Kent, are you an idiot savant? When I say exactly, I don't mean word for word. Give me the headline. Does an alien live among us?
The question seems to give Clark a splitting headache.
I doubt it. I mean, Luthor's a blowhard. He always exaggerates. Worth 26 billion, but he says it's 27. No, I'd say with the Board of Education story, not...
But I'm Board of Education, and you're not editor-in-chief.
With relish, he deletes the dull headline, types in, Alien Stalks Metropolis. Is anybody safe?
You'll cover Smallville. Local boy, human interests, Hicktown in the headline. I'll send Lois to the Arctic. She'll think that's fun. Long johns, frostbite, stuck with tundra with 20 men.
Clark grimaces. His migraine just got worse. Exterior Metropolis Street in the afternoon. Clark walks in step with a crush of pedestrians heading home from work. Some are tuned to the news via Walkman-style radios, and word of Luthor's discovery spreads. As the small crowd waits at the corner for the light.
But what would an alien do who crash-landed in Smallville?
Move to Metropolis.
Well, I hope Superman hunts it down and kills it.
General agreement. Clark hurries on, ahead of the crowd. Inside Clark's apartment that night, a modest one-bedroom bachelor pad, the only decoration is a framed photo above Clark's bed of an elderly, kindly, starchy Midwestern couple. They must be Ma and Pa Kent. Clark packs for tomorrow's trip with the TV on. Lex's folly, or might there really be a monster in our midst? Clark packs a sweater from his dresser. Hidden beneath is another photo of Lois laying at some disaster, getting the story. With tenderness verging on worship, he sighs.
Lois.
Then slips the photo in his bag between the two pair of DVDs. Time cut. Inside Clark's apartment that night. He can't sleep. There's a cacophony of conversation in neighboring apartments. Clark's ears twitch as we catch random samples of, don't feel safe, could be anyone, go out in pairs, makes your skin crawl. Clark gets out of bed in his boxers, revealing a remarkably sculpted build for a writer. Opens his closet door. There are 30 identical dark business suits there. He reaches for the nearest one. Exterior city street, late at night. A restless Clark walks, back in his anonymous garb, hiding behind heavy glasses. He smiles, sympathetic, at Metropolis's luckless late-night denizens, wordlessly communing with them in their loneliness, their hunger, their cold, and their fatigue. He rounds a corner. Here's a homeless woman gnawing on a piece of raw meat she's scrounged from a dumpster. Without slowing, Clark fixes his gaze on the meat, which instantly cooks in her hands. Delighted, she devours the now savory meal. On the next block, a tired-looking teenage boy unloads bales of tomorrow's paper, the one with the Alien Stalks Metropolis headline from the Daily Planet truck. Clark doesn't like the headline, but what he likes even less is how dead on his feet the boy looks. Now, as the boy returns to the truck, he double-takes. All the remaining papers have been moved somehow to the sidewalk. Off his incredulous grin, we pan to an old lady in a wheelchair, frantically works to get out of the street before that big bus, barreling down. Thank God the bus slows. No, thank Clark. Hidden behind the bus, he's got it by the tailpipe as though he were walking a disobedient dog. Clark lets go and keeps walking, sleepless, haunted, Metropolis's biggest hero and most furtive man. Exterior Smallville outskirts, the next morning. A press bus speeds down a rural road, past farmhouses mostly untouched by time. Inside the press bus, Clark in a window seat, surrounded by fellow journalists from Metropolis, Atlanta, New York, LA, even some European scribes who wonder what they're doing in this cowtown. As he stares out at one humbled home that blurs by, we flash back to the Kent farm in the morning, a quarter century ago. Behind the house, away from neighbors' prying eyes, the Kents have set up a fenced-in play area with a mini trampoline from Sears. They watch as 5-year-old Clark, very cute, but maybe a tad, shall we say, hyperactive, jumps up and down.
Oh, watch me fly.
Very nice, son, but not so high. Folks might see.
Indeed, every time Clark jumps, he gets a few feet higher. Soon he's leaving the top of the frame and not returning for 1 second. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. Ma and Pa Kent trade looks, astounded anew. Now Ma Kent laughs, which makes even Pa Kent laugh, which makes young Clark, floating above them both, break into joyous laughter too. Then we cut back to the exterior of the Smallville bus depot the next morning. The press bus pulls in, disgorges the journalists. Clark is last off, looking as ambivalent as the scribes from Angi and Le Mans, even though, because he grew up here. Exterior of a baseball field in the morning, later on, where Luthor's research team, equipped with Geiger counters and pickaxes, is deep in a pit they've dug. Clark stands nearby, talking softly into a note recorder.
Smallville's impact site was determined by infrared photo maps made by the LexCorp satellite, which is,
He squints up in the sky, then picks out an object flying in space that is, of course, invisible to the normal naked eye.
Ursetta 3.
Then smiles painfully at a memory that takes him back to the exterior baseball field a morning 20 years ago. His team is at bat. We recognize the 10-year-old gangly Clark by those same Buddy Holly frames. It's crisp, clear day, and he's staring up, spinning slowly, lost in wonderment. Kent's spacing out again!
Hey, Kent, still sniffing glue?
We tilt up and see the sky just as Clark can see it. Wow, far from being an empty blue dome, it's magically busy, with bizarre and beautiful satellites silently orbiting above. Like weird insect gods they are. The Vela 6 and Salvoot 1, solar arrays for wings and mission antennae for eyes.
Look, overhead, Mariner 10.
Boy 2 thrusts a bat at Clark, pushes him toward home plate.
Quit farting around, Kent, you're up.
Clark assumes the batter's stance. The pitcher, a well-muscled young neo-Nazi with blonde brush cut, winds up when, floating up over the horizon, here comes.
Whoa, Skylab, holy smoke.
While Clark is busy admiring the world's first space station observatory, the pitcher purposely beams him. The fastball bounces off Clark's head. He's still watching the skies, doesn't even feel it. But then he realizes all the kids are laughing and pointing and chanting.
Clark's a Martian.
Clark's a freak!
Clark's freak.
Suddenly, Clark realizes what it is he must do. He presses a hand to his forehead, trying hard to sound sincere as...
Ow, that really hurt.
Exterior baseball field in the morning, present day. Continuing into his note quarter.
Shoot, sorry. Give me 1 sec. Sorry, everything fell off. Lois got left fully smooth. Okay, and it did. Just not the ball.
The note quarter shatters in his grip. A beat before, a shout goes up from the hole. They found something. Reporters ringing the pit clamor for a peek. All but Clark, staring off into the distance. TV cameramen jostle him to get a first look. Clark stays fixed on a quaint rural graveyard, a mile behind right field. Interior, Perry White's office, late morning at the same time. White monitors the live telecast. As video cameras zoom in on a tiny object held aloft, a bizarre alien bolt, like the one Brainiac unscrewed from his arm. There's pushing, shoving, and shouted commentary. Could this be our first glimpse of an off-world technology?
Kent's gonna call. Kent's gonna call. Where the hell is Kent?
Exterior cemetery, late morning. At that graveyard, Clark stands at Ma and Para's markers. quietly communing with the spirits of his adopted folks.
Now I can picture the night you found me. Ma held me while Pa loaded shards of the ship in his pickup. Carted them off to the dump. God forbid people knew your sweet little boy came from outer space. And God forbid I knew.
Clark blows the dust off their markers and continues.
You only missed one bolt, but that one little bolt was the big missing piece of the puzzle. Who am I really? Where am I from?
He swallows, bites his lip.
Deep down, I knew it wasn't here. You gave me a home, and I'll always be grateful. But today, I feel I'm on the brink of a journey that just might lead me to my home. If and when I get there, Ma, Pa, I'll drop you a line.
He stands, dusts his pants. As he wanders away, we hear...
A bolt from the blue. That's what we'll call it.
Interior, Luthor's office that afternoon. Ringed by his proud research team, Luthor examines the alien bolt recovered from Smallville. The room is dazzlingly bright with the lights of a dozen TV cameras.
No, bolt sounds too puny. What's another word for bolt that sounds big?
Suddenly the lights dim, cameras short, outlets start to sizzle. Amid the confusion, a senior engineer races in.
Hurry, sir. There's some kind of...
Seeing the press here in force, he mouths,
Whoops, fuse must have blown in the basement. Excuse me.
Luthor absently pockets the bolt as he exits into the interior of the corridor. Luthor joins a group of grave technicians in goggles. Lex is given goggles too as the men hurry to the elevator.
We're baffled, sir. All systems read intact, yet there's a catastrophic drop in power output.
Interior of the elevator. As they board, then descend.
Do we evacuate the main building? Metropolis? The Midwest? What?
Tech 2 consults a radiation sensing device as the floor is light. Sub-basement 1, sub-basement 2, sub-basement 3.
I recommend we shut down now, then determine what caused the dip.
No way. By the time the EPA authorizes us to come back online, we're all collecting welfare.
As they hit the bottom level, sub-basement 4, Tech 2's needle flies into the red zone so hard and fast it snaps. Inside the sub-basement 4, afternoon, Luthor starts to follow his techs off the car. He sees Brainiac, squatting in a dark corner. He's got his spider legs interconnected with various wires and cables. Hard to say where LexCorp apparatus leaves off and Brainiac begins. But, as though humiliated by the exposure of his spider limbs, Brainiac hurriedly covers himself with his cape.
I think I'm going to be sick.
They all back off, too slowly. Brainiac whips a tentacle across the room, spearing the line of techs through their tummies like human shish kebab. Now, as he sets forth a stupendous force field, the unlucky techs' limbs fly off. Then what Brainiac's looking for comes loose, their life forces, which he greedily inhales, visibly expanding. Only Lex, who's never quite stepped off the car, is left intact, frantically pressing door close, which the spare tentacle that snakes across the floor is preventing.
I'm president and CEO.
Good. I'm so tired of swallowing subordinates, underlings.
Let me live, and I'll bring you more technicians.
Brainiac just stares. Luthor takes another tack.
You're the alien who crash landed 30 years ago?
What alien?
The one we found.
He fumbles in his pocket, pulls out the peculiar bolt, then jumps as a tentacle whips the bolt from his grip. Brainiac holds it up to one holographic eye.
This can only be Kryptonian. Where did you find this?
Smallville?
Is Smallville nearby?
Would that be good?
Brainiac screws the bolt into his arm to replace the one he'd fed his two-headed pet rat, while marveling.
After 3 decades of wandering, what luck. Of all the petty little planets in this pointless universe, to have landed on the obscure world where K crashed.
Abruptly, Brainiac scuttles across the room at a cowering Lex, wraps Luthor in his tentacles and presses his holosphere against Lex's face. A strange sort of cyber kiss.
Wonderful, fabulous, phenomenal.
Luthor faints in Brainiac's embrace. Exterior, tundra, dusk. A vista of nearly pure white. Super up, Arctic Circle. As we tighten, we see that the dark dots on the landscape are Luthor's Arctic team, and the few reporters hardy enough to cover this story. Foremost amongst these is Lois, somehow both ballsy and feminine, even in a parka, even in a blizzard. She jumps off her dog sled and, with young planet photographer Jimmy Olsen, trots, graceful, in snowshoes, towards scientists scrutinizing a gap in the ice. While joking with Jimmy,
What if Luthor set all this up so my fingertips would freeze off and I'd never pound a word processor again?
trails off and blinks, amazed, because, trudging toward them in the storm, seemingly oblivious to the terrible conditions, is a man in a dark blue business suit and wingtips. His one concession to the vicious cold is his hands are jammed in his pockets.
Clark?
He can't help it. He lights up at the sight of her.
Lois, hi.
You cold?
Silk underwear. Hey, Jim. How's it going?
How did you get here?
I flew.
He keeps walking, disappearing in the snowstorm with a vague, distant look, as though a voice were calling him. Lois and Jimmy trade bemused looks.
Of all clocks, strange.
This takes the... Clark, where are you?
She tries to follow, but within a few steps loses his trail in the blizzard and is forced to turn back. Squinting into the blankness of where Clark disappeared.
Where? But did he sort of seem like he knew where he was going?
Back to Clark, through the snow blind, he evinces a strange hypnotic certainty, like a sleepwalker. His wingtips slip on the icy ledge, and then he slides on his ass into a deep ravine, where he brushes the snow from his suit and cocks his head as though listening for some specific frequency. He's drawn 10 paces north, stops, then raises a shoe and stomps the ice. The permafrost shatters. Revealed beneath the steepest crack is an unearthly glow. Standing directly above the glowing spot, Clark starts to spin like a drill bit as he picks up speed, throws ice slush, then blurrily starts to bore down into the ice till he vanishes from sight. Interior, the fortress. Clark drops into a huge chamber that's been carved beneath the ice. He hits the floor, leaps to his feet, looks around. Things become dimly visible, then go dark, because the illumination source is a glowing, floating orb. K.
Oh, where am I?
Home.
Wait, isn't home another planet and I'm being called back to it now that
K startles Clark by swooping down at him, assuming in the process the appearance of a planet, which explodes. Clark ducks, but of course the explosion is just an illusion. Now it hits Clark what this illusion means.
Oh no. Tell me the planet where what was it called?
Krypton.
Clark tries out the strange syllables with sad wonder.
Krypton.
He
Okay.
can't dare to ask the next question, so Kay offers.
Jor-El and Lara, you were their only child. You are Kal-El.
As Clark tries this on for size, Kay floats to the corner, lighting a hologram. A loop of Jor-El and Lara looking young and beautiful and almost real, as they do an eerily stylized dance to spooky, beautiful music. Choreography as complex and ritualistic as a gavotte, but romantic too. Clark stares at the two, but as the loop ends, Kay floats away, plunging his parents back into darkness. Clark registers all that he has lost, swallows, then, softly,
Seeing them is harder than watching the whole planet explode.
Kay floats before him, light gently pulsating as though for a moment it were a beating heart, not a glowing orb.
Kal-El, I am the keeper of the Kryptonian flame, and of you, the last son of Krypton. I am K.
Clark solemnly nods, processing all this. Now he realizes.
You activated, called me to you. Why? Am I in some sort of danger?
I am programmed to protect you.
This does not sound good. Clark shivers as though feeling the Arctic cold for the first time, trying to make light of the sensation.
Someone just stepped on my grave.
The uneasy joke gives way to an urgent confession.
I've never been sick. I always sort of assumed I couldn't. But then doesn't everyone secretly wish they were immortal? What I'm trying to get at is, I guess, is how super am I?
Finally, question.
Can I be killed? Can I die?
I am programmed to protect you.
This does not sound good either.
If I'm in danger, then so is Metropolis, so is Earth.
That would follow.
Clark's first response is instinctive.
Then I've got to get back.
But instinct is now tempered by these novel sensations of vulnerability, alienation, literally, and fear.
I guess, yes, all right. I'm going back now to Metropolis.
Finding his resolve again, he takes a breath, then slowly crosses the ice in his wingtips to the hole he'd bored above. Turns back for a last look at his cyber guardian.
Nice to meet you, Kay. Take care.
Kay glows brighter for a beat. You too. Exterior Metropolis, morning a few days later. A bright, busy morning as we zoom in on LexCorp headquarters.
How much will it set me back?
Inside Luthor's office in the morning, Luthor stands at his giant mahogany door, dictating to a gaggle of LexCorp toadies in the hall. It's awkward as for some reason Lex won't open his door more than a foot.
Comp the Nobel Committee for a week at Luthor World.
Shouldn't we wait till the solar provider's up and running before we go to the expense of...
I want the prize before I'm 40, or Stockholm shouldn't bother.
The group trades glances. Now the next unpleasant topic.
The Daily Planet is planning another story on the disappearance of those LexCorp technicians. Lois Lane wants to come in and talk to you and get your side of the story on the record.
Right, and give that muck-raking, mudslinging minx the credibility she craves. Let Lois Lane know that my side of the story can be told in 2 words. No comment.
He slams the door, then turns.
I am so on edge with you here.
We see reverse. It's clear why Lex kept his staff out. Brainiac squats on a couch in Luthor's sunken meeting area. Beside the couch, an opening is torn in on the floorboards. Heavily insulated cables have been pulled from below, discreetly snaking up beneath his carefully closed cape. But a crackling hum confirms that power is surging from Luthor's reactor into Brainiac's ever bigger body.
You won't regret giving a sickly traveler subsistence.
I won't. I already do.
Lex, can you imagine what it's like every day sitting down to a full-course meal, and the minute you finish dessert, you're starving all over again?
Yes.
A man after my own heart, if I had one, possessed one.
Maybe you wouldn't need so much power if we unplugged that damn word search program you run.
Now, over the intercom, a meek and terrified sounding voice.
Just to remind you, sir, that EPA agent is coming tomorrow to inspect the waste disposal system.
Let's treat his family to a day at my theme park. Soften him up, eh?
He clicks off as Brainiac offers.
Should that backfire, Lex?
He scuttles over to Luthor's window, gazes up at the sky. Exterior of the sky, morning. As the camera rises high into the clouds, we hear...
I can call on any number of ill-behaved pets to repay you.
We emerge from the cloud layer to find that far above Metropolis, Brainiac's skull ship hovers. As we dissolve through its base, studied with video cam eyes, we hear...
The snare beast from Thanagar.
Interior of the skull ship, morning. We're in the menagerie, landing first on the snare beast. A plump infant that looks small and sweet for a monster.
No. Not till it's pubescent. When, like everything else, it'll turn nasty, impure, spiteful.
Pan to the cage beside it. An animal with scales like an armadillo's and teeth like a beaver's smiles for the camera.
Perhaps what's called for here is a Plutonian Null beast.
Exterior, Luthor world, next afternoon. A tacky little fairground behind the big reactor. We follow a small family in. As they pass under an archway with its bas-relief portrait of Luthor, smiling down. There's a roller coaster ride called Gone Fission, and a lunch counter named, of course, the Geiger counter.
Look, Daddy, look!
He's pointing at the park's centerpiece, a scale model of the satellite Lex has pinned his Peace Prize hopes on. Never mind the two mirrored solar cell wings, the little boy is awed by what looks like a cannon below them.
A sun gun!
A park attendant hurries up to the little boy with a slick smile, does LexCorp's ready for the Nobel spiel.
That's the solar provider. Soon it'll beam the sun's concentrated power to energy-starved areas around the globe. As a tool for peace and prosperity, the solar provider is the opposite of a gun.
Yeah, well, it looks like a big gun.
Come on, hon. Let's try Gone Fission.
Little boy's dad misses this. He's on his cell phone to DC.
Leakage levels in excess of 1,000 rems at the generator tubes.
Walks by a security cam that swivels as he passes. Interior of Luthor's office, afternoon, at the same time. Brainiac and Lex sit at a bank of screens, spying.
You heard me right. 1,000 rems.
You like statistics? Good. He'll soon be one.
Exterior roller coaster, afternoon, a moment later. Scores of thrilled kids climb on. Our family belts into the first car as, over the PA,
Welcome to Gone Fission, where you'll be a water molecule as it races through a LexCorp reactor.
the line of cars jerks into motion.
Hold tight. Below is the reactor coolant pump,
Everyone screams as the cars drop down 90 degrees.
where we'll pick up all the pressure we need to do our job.
The cars level. Dad resumes his phone call.
Where am I? Trapped in Lex hell.
Interior Luthor's office. Lex turns to Brainiac and chuckles.
He doesn't know the half of it.
Exterior of the roller coaster, same time. The cars dive again. Everyone screams over the PA, we hear.
Uh-oh, folks. We're heading for the decontamination area.
Dad shouts into the phone over the screens.
And if Luthor thinks by comping my kid at his cheesy carnival, the EPA won't be all over his corner, cutting butt for poor maintenance, inadequate disposal, and shabby.
The PA level seems to rise a few decibels, drowning him out as the cars climb steeply, quickly picking up speed.
We're on our way to the high-pressure turbine. Scared? You're in safe hands with LexCorp.
At the very summit, its tail wrapped around a rail, is the Plutonian Knobbeast, happily chewing track. Its teeth have just severed the last metal strut. Just as the cars reach the top and keep climbing, what a rush!
Mom, Dad, it's like we're flying.
They are flying, in midair, free of the truncated track, for a few moments anyway. Inside Luthor's office, the same time, Lex and Brainiac enjoy the action on the monitor.
You know, I used to sick my lawyers on the federal government, guys. Tie them up in court for years, waste millions of taxpayer dollars. I used to think that was fun. This is fun.
Exterior roller coaster, the afternoon. Just as they lose momentum and start to fall a good 60 feet to certain death, something, or someone, has bored through the clouds with an outstretched fist. Now he's streaking down like a missile, moving too fast to make out more than a cape, a pair of boots, a bodysuit, a shock of dark, unruly hair. Okay, it's Superman. And so as not to cause panic, he soars under the cars and carries the happily screaming crowd down, gently setting the train on the ground. Only then does everyone realize they've survived an amazingly close call, and some start retroactively screaming. In terror this time, those who haven't succumbed to post-crisis trauma, all the kids, try to mob Superman. But he's already streaked back toward the sawed-off roller coaster summit where the Gnaw Beast still perches, tail wrapped around the girder, its mouth making an ugly mocking noise, tongue sticking out at the Man of Steel. Superman's X-ray eyes heat the girder till it glows red, and with a shriek, the Gnaw Beast falls into a moat around the perimeter of gone fission marked nuclear reactor coolant. Submerged, the Gnaw Beast writhes. Clearly it hates water, then springs out and makes straight for the relieved revelers Superman just saved. The desperate EPA dad smashes his cell phone against the sharp tips of the Gnaw Beast's teeth, chipping them, which makes the Gnaw Beast mad. Abruptly, Dad finds himself in the Gnaw Beast's jaws, body shaken like a baby's rattle as the plutonium Gnaw Beast tries to snap his spine. Superman dives into the moat and hurriedly imbibes water, gallons of it. Gallons and gallons and gallons till the moat empties in a matter of seconds, and then, like a walking super soaker, he spits a steady stream of hated water right at the Gnaw Beast, who quickly drops the dad from his jaws and tries to escape the shower. But there's nowhere to run, because Superman aims his deluge wherever the Gnaw Beast turns. The stuff seems to burn him like holy water on Linda Blair. With a screech, the Gnaw Beast rolls into a drenched ball and dies. Adults faint and retch. The kids let out a cheer. Interior of Luthor's office, afternoon at the same time. Outraged, Lex pounds the monitor bank.
He liquidated the Gnaw Beast. Damn Superman. Killed your pet! He's more meddling than the EPA, the SEC, and my mother combined.
Brainiac peers intently at the TV as various stunned and congratulatory witnesses crowd around the caped hero.
This Superman, you haven't mentioned him before.
He hasn't been around much lately. Call it wishful thinking, but I hoped he'd relocated to a real trouble spot. Zaire, for example.
Yellow.
Yeah, that coward, that sissy, always saving people.
But Brainiac is staring out at the afternoon sun.
On Krypton, ours was red.
Your son? Okay. So what would that explain?
Brainiac sits back and shuts his eyes. We hear the whir of his hard drive spinning up at blinding speed. Now,
Everything.
he squints at Superman's image on the monitor and murmurs.
Little Kal-El, all grown up.
You know him?
From Krypton. We're practically related. Siblings. Kin.
And I assumed he was a poster boy for steroids. So he's the alien who crash landed. Damn. If I had known all this time, I could have stirred up public, mindless, primitive hatred of the unknown.
Brainiac ignores Luthor's rant, quietly exulting.
A is close.
Exterior of the roller coaster, afternoon, a moment later. Knee-deep in awed children, Superman tries to delicately dislodge the grateful little boy who's embraced his leg.
If I keep pulling on you tight, then I'll always be safe.
Well, you're safe now. Superman says so.
He gets free just as Lois and Jimmy race up, first on the scene as usual. But before she can fire question one...
Lois, sorry, gotta go.
Mr. Modest, come on, a little Q&A won't kill you.
It might. I just drank a lot of water. To repeat, I gotta go.
Wait,
Then, quietly, so Jimmy and the others won't hear,
where have you been? Every night,
but he's already streaked away, vanishing behind the roller coaster. She watches, wistful as Jimmy spots.
Reaching for the Black Lagoon?
He starts happily snapping at the bizarre carcass. Now they both hear strolling up from behind the empty moat.
Hi, Lois. Hey, Jimmy.
Dressed in a drab suit. Lois gives him the usual grief.
Where's your nose for news, Clark? Gone the way of your eye for color?
But Clark looks serious and preoccupied.
Lois, I think it's time we talked.
No, I need to interview witnesses.
Clark takes her hand, using perhaps a tad too much force.
Ow, I'm coming.
Sorry. Can we talk? Can we take your car?
I guess. How'd you get here?
Interior restaurant, early evening. A Japanese restaurant like Benihana where they cook your meal at your table. Clark looks unpleasantly surprised at how busy the place is so early.
You want to try quieter?
No, it's fun here.
The hostess seats them in the middle of the room.
After 6, I'll have a sake.
One sake, no, make that two.
But the hostess is gone, so he turns back to Lois.
Listen, Lo, I just got back from the Arctic.
Yes, what the hell were you doing there? Trying to steal my story, I can only assume?
What? No, I was looking for the fortress which I found.
Oh, well, good. One of us found something. So what is the, fortress?
Oh, very long story. Very long story. Several thousand years old.
To quote our crusty but lovable boss, just give me the headline.
Clark tries, but somehow the words don't come. Instead, his foot nervously taps under the table, setting up a strong vibrational field in here. Suddenly, the windows in everyone's water glass shatter. Amid shrieks and general dismay, Clark hurriedly rises.
Be right back. I gotta go.
As he walks off, Lois repeats the phrase to herself. It sounds strangely familiar. Interior of the men's room, early evening. Those at the urinals react to a blur and rush of wind. It seemed to start at the door and finish at the window. Exterior, the world, an instant later, a god's eye view as the pent-up, jittery Clark flies at full speed around the globe's girth, blowing off steam. Interior of the restaurant, early evening, 2 minutes later. Clark returns from the men's room. All around them, as though a bomb went off, busboys are sweeping up glass.
Your hair, it's windblown?
Stupid hand dryers. You know how they are.
Lois touching him, straightening his part, Clark finds the wherewithal to broach the difficult subject.
So, this alien in town, everyone is in such a thing about it.
Their waiter appears with his little barbecue on wheels. Clark signals we need a moment alone. He continues quietly.
It's Superman.
Lois shakes her head. Poor, confused Clark. She patiently.
Superman is a man with superpowers, Clark. That's why they named him Superman.
Actually, you named him that in the pages of the Daily Planet.
Because he's a human who, through some genetic fluke, leapfrogged several eons ahead of the rest of us. A sort of hopeful harbinger of our evolutionary future. Or don't you read my column?
Religiously. And I know the piece verbatim. An anonymous source said off the record that back in the late 60s, a private Midwestern genome lab enhanced a perfect male human baby.
Right. So?
The piece relied entirely on anonymous sources, unnamed experts, top insiders, and wishful thinking.
Furious, Lois downs her sake.
Are you impugning that my journalistic ethics and competence?
Oh, no, neither, Lois. What you wanted to believe was natural and nice, that the Man of Steel was a man after all. He looks like a man, doesn't he? And you weren't alone. All Metropolis wanted to believe it too. So did Superman. Superman most of all.
How do you know what Superman thinks? You always walk in the room a minute after he leaves.
And suddenly, finally, it hits her.
I need more sake. Waiter?
Off her amazement.
Oh, come on. Is it really so hard to believe? I mean, Lois, look.
He pulls off his glasses, shakes his hair loose. A beat, and then she concedes.
Okay, there's a resemblance.
He shrugs a thank you. She hedges.
Then again, people say I resemble some movie star, but that doesn't mean I am the movie star. It means they need a favor from me.
Meantime, Clark reaches over to the barbecue and picks up a coal, heedless of the heat, and squeezes it, hard. When he opens his palm, there's a diamond in it that he offers her. But she won't take it, just quietly wonders.
Why did you wait so long to tell me who you were?
Because I didn't know who I was, like the rest of you. I hoped that I was one of you. Wouldn't that be neat? But it's not like that. Like I'm Jewish and you're Catholic. How are we going to raise kids? It's more like
He turns away, groping for the words.
we're not even the same species.
What man and women are?
I'm not a man.
You could have fooled me.
Clark reaches for her sake cup, but it's empty. He'll have to do this sober.
One day you'll want a baby, and I won't be able to give you one. Or if I can, he's liable to, who knows, a human carrying a super baby. He's liable to, who knows, punch his way out.
Trying to scare me with worst case obstetrical scenarios?
Before Clark can retort, Lois leans across the table and grabs his shoulders almost violently, and they kiss. A beat, then he pulls back. Both look shell-shocked.
It's not the same. Is it?
Oh, God. I'm sorry. I guess I need time, that's all. Time to...
It's okay. I mean, everything's changed. Of course it has.
She reaches for him,
Don't say that.
but her hand stops short, and Clark stands.
Lois, you're brave. And that makes you a great reporter. But don't be brave in love. Be wise. You need a man, not a Kryptonian.
And he starts away, flicking the diamond out a busted window, half hoping all the while she'll call him back.
Clark.
But it comes out as a whisper, and he keeps walking. As we hold on her, she starts to break down, and we hear over the image.
You'll always be a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Interior of the elevator, mourning at the same time. Brainiac and Luthor in that same LexCorp elevator that descends past sub-basements 1, 2, 3.
So long as this Kryptonian pet killer is allowed to run rampant.
Brainiac, we note, is cradling something small and furry. Interior of sub-basement 4, where Brainiac inhaled the technicians a week before, all the wires and cables he'd sucked power from still stick out of the wall, still crackle with radiation. As they step off the elevator car,
Superman must meet his doomsday.
Brainiac holds out the furry little fellow. It looks like a newborn Yeti with mange, indicating its tiny name tag.
Meet doomsday.
Really? Looks like birthday.
Lex reaches out to tweak its nose.
Don't.
The baby beast bites off the tip of Luthor's finger.
Never pet a thing named Doomsday.
Lex screams, curses, sucks his bleeding digit as Brainiac sets Doomsday down amid bare wires and cables, which he carefully twists and molds into a cozy little nuke nest.
We're speeding its development. In a few days, what it did to your fingertip, it'll do to the tip of Superman, i.e., his handsome head.
If I know Superman, he'll put up more of a fight than my finger.
Doomsday is already a little bigger as the two re-enter. Luthor starts to press Penthouse, but Brainiac beats him to it, tentacles slapping the roof button. As they rise,
But not much more. He'll be all tuckered out when he goes mono a monster with the Doomsday Beast.
You plan to throw a noisy party? Keep him up late the night before?
exterior LexCorp roof in the morning. Trash blows, rats scurry, and the skiff Brainiac uses to commute to his skull ship high above.
I plan to make the night before last a week. You see, your yellow sun is Superman's battery. It's missing. Someone won't get his battery recharged.
He holds open the skiff door for a skeptical Luthor.
Pretty big talk for basically a power book with bony legs.
Brainiac shrugs, suit yourself. Guns the skiff's motor.
All right, wait up.
He hops aboard. The skiff rises off the roof. Slowly at first, then suddenly shoots up out of frame. Interior of the skull ship, that night. Luthor tentatively tours the craft, peering with distaste at the menagerie while Brainiac pilots the creepy craft. Exterior of the ship, as it bores through space, then abruptly slows, nearing the solar provider, and docks with it. Its various ultra-sophisticated support systems seizing control of the satellite. Back in the interior, Brainiac expertly flicks switches, tweaks dials, while Luthor paces, skeptical, nervous as an expectant dad.
Any structural damage, my lawyers will eat you alive. Figure of speech.
A hand-picked Beast Brigade squadron marches single file out the skull ship's mouth into the satellite's bowels.
We have achieved contagion.
Exterior of the satellite, a moment later. Corrupted by the skull ship's malign force, the satellite starts to mutate. Gun grows, wings elongate and raise like an immense fan opening or evil flower blooming. When its wings have achieved stunning size, they merge above and below to form a giant disc that keeps growing.
Your solar provider is hereby rechristened the Shadowcaster.
Inside the skull ship, same time. Luthor is stunned at the quick, complete metamorphosis.
The unions will hear about this. They will wig. How the hell did you...
Want to hear a lot of Kryptonian shop talk? Didn't think so. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Mr. Sun is about to exit stage left.
On cue, a dark shadow falls across the dastardly pair. Exterior satellite. The disk is now of sufficient diameter and density to begin to seriously blot out our favorite star. The off-screen laughter of Lex and Brainiac intermixes with operatic doom music. Exterior metropolis. Morning. Super up. 3 days later. We're wide as 1,000 wake-up buzzers and clock radios go off. Only problem? It's still dark. As we tighten on the Daily Planet building, we hear,
Yo, Metropolis, top of the morning, or should I make that bottom?
Interior Planet Newsroom morning. Lois is on the phone with the National Astronomy Society.
Well, besides the moon, what else could be blocking the sun? Yes, I understand you've been getting a lot of calls. Yes, I'll hold. But if you hang up on me, I'll just be calling you back.
Jimmy comes in off the terrace where he's been snapping pics of the city on this strange, murky morning.
My mom phoned yesterday. Said it's a nice sunny in Chicago.
2 days of heavy overcast have turned into a local eclipse? Ezzo, be hung up!
She's determinedly redialing as Perry White strides in.
Why in the battle between the rational and the deranged does the deranged always play better?
He clicks on the TV overhead, a local morning news show. A meteorologist is finishing a long-winded exegesis. Well, due to the relative motion of the heavenly bodies, the conical shadow should move over the terrestrial surface rapidly, restoring daylight. On the host's other side, an excitable woman shouts.
But it's not moving, is it? As it says in the book of Amos, I will darken the earth in the clear day. God's punishment for our sins.
Metropolis? Sinful? Well, Gotham City, maybe, but Metropolis?
You bet. And why? Because we've grown slothful and proud and shamefully dependent on Superman. Hear, hear.
Lois turns to see who said this.
Clark?
Their first encounter since the restaurant. He stands stiff at her desk. They're awkward as adolescents.
I, tried to call you, but
You did? I'm glad, but,
Well, to see why you hadn't been in for 2 days, I was worried.
Oh.
But no answer. Did you go back to the fortress?
I didn't go anywhere. I felt fluey, I guess you'd call it. Turned off the phone and slept.
Bemused by his own behavior, he's never done that before. But Lois nods, empathetic.
I know, I kept crying into this quart of high butterfat ice cream. But you look like you're coming down with something.
She presses a palm to his flushed forehead, and it sizzles. She waves her hand, blowing on it.
You're coming down to my office in 1 hour, Kent, with front page think piece that claims this sort of California-style hysterica.
Clark half-heartedly gestures. I'll get on it.
I'll get on it.
Lane, you cover the feminine angle, how the eclipse affects carpooling, grocery shopping, soap viewership, tranquilizers intake.
Yes, boss. Watch me file a complaint against that Cro-Magnon.
Clark plops listless at his desk.
Jim, when people say they feel fluey, what exactly do they mean?
I mean, like, when you're at the clubs or closes and you've done too many jello shots, and just when you get home and lie down, the phone rings, Perry White.
He plops into a chair opposite Clark's as Lois jumps up.
Hell with this. I'm going straight to where my gut tells me is the key to this crisis. Lex Luthor.
Luthor? But come on, I mean the sun load, that's an even bigger part of combustible gas.
As she walks
I don't know how, Jimmy. All I know is Kibono?
Clark explains to the perplexed photographer.
It's Latin, meaning when the sun disappears and LexCorps are the only lights in town. Who benefits?
A beat. Then Jimmy grins, grabs his camera, follows Lois.
I do.
Clark jumps up too, a step behind Jimmy.
Let's go.
Men's room.
Interior of the men's room. Oh. Morning, a minute later. Clark strides across the empty bathroom, business suit burning off him, revealing the Superman suit beneath. But as he reaches the window, he stumbles trying to fly out, then takes a breath, backs up for a running start.
Up, and... I weigh too much.
Splashes his face with cold water, psychs himself, and... as the exterior of the planet building in the morning, Superman streaks unseen into the unnaturally dark sky. Exterior, upper atmosphere. Superman emerges from the cloud layer over Metropolis, continuing upward, visibly straining with the effort of ascent. Groaning like a middle-aged jogger as he fades to shadow, but the sun is obscured. Superman is now approaching the Shadowcaster. Looming above him like a black hole, the thing absorbs so much light the skull ship is conveniently concealed.
My God, it looks like death.
As he comes in range, Superman feels weakness. Nausea sweep over him. He falters, fights Earth's gravity, then recovers. Streaking a half-mile higher, close enough to discern the outline of the swollen sun gun.
Does Lex have a license for that?
Then regathers his strength to check out the colossal sun-blocking disk beyond. Up close, its immensity is staggering even to Superman. And Superman knows.
This is way beyond Lex. This is way beyond Luthor. It's way beyond anybody. It's...
Finally impossible to fly, he falls. Tumbles toward LexCorp main gate, morning. Lois is hustled off the premises by 2 security guards. Jimmy snaps pics as she's bum-rushed through the gates.
I'm leaving my card for Luthor. Make it clear he'd better call me.
We're scared. We're quaking.
Angles
Sorry.
and plummets.
Oh,
Trying to regain his balance before impact. 5 feet from the ground, he manages a semi-graceful half-gainer, landing on his toes right in front of the guards who, terrified, turn tail and run for their building.
Superman!
Jimmy edges closer, camera ready, but Superman staggers, getting his balance. Puts up a palm. No pictures today.
This is more than post-Lois depression.
Interior of the skull ship. Same time. Brainiac watches the action below on a monitor.
Say, what does this one do?
He hits a button on the console, clearly marked Doomsday. Exterior LexCorp main gate. Morning a moment later. Still gasping for breath, Superman tries to explain.
It's Luthor's satellite, but not.
The solar provider? Why? What?
When comes a low rumble, like a big quake about to hit. Suddenly the sidewalk buckles, and springing out from the roar below, like a demon set loose from hell, is Doomsday. Savage, maddened, looking every inch the owner of its name. And several heads taller now than Superman. While little son was getting through, he's blocking. Lois screams. Jimmy's fingers fumble for the camera around his neck. Reading their fear, Doomsday comes right for them both. But not before Superman flies at the brute's belly with a roundhouse punch that's fairly powerful, considering how fatigued he already feels. But the punch doesn't faze Doomsday. It swats at Superman as though he were a gnat, then starts down the street, kicking over parked cars, twisting telephone poles and terrorizing bystanders. Momentarily off balance and a half block behind, Superman hefts a round chunk of broken pavement, hurls at the behemoth's head like a discus.
Gotta get it away from the crowd.
The cement bounces off Doomsday's head, drawing black blood. It turns on Superman in time for a second chunk right in the chops. Doomsday bellows and does what Superman hoped. It stalks back after our hero, who dives into the hole Doomsday burst through. Lois, whether as lover or reporter, instinctively tries to follow. It takes all Jimmy's might to hold her. Interior cavern, a moment later. Superman grabs a strut in the subterranean structure. He hangs there gasping for breath till Doomsday drops into the hole and drags him down another 20 feet into a dark cavern where Superman lands on his back with a thump, the wind knocked out of him beside a sign that reads, "Warning, nuclear and other hazardous waste." It's about to pounce on Superman, who kicks it on the jaw with a super steel boot. The kick connects, but Doomsday grabs Superman's ankle and pushes him down a drain pipe slick with toxic gunk. Superman struggles up, blinded by the gooey waste dripping into his eyes. He spots the flickering shadow of Doomsday behind him and bends forward at just the right instant, flipping the monster with one hand while ripping a beam from its bolts, then brandishing it at Doomsday, who snatches it and bends the beam like a wishbone as Superman backs away from the massive boomerang that lethally whooshes across the cavern, wrecking everything but Superman himself, who's dropped to his haunches and now slides towards Doomsday with both fists pumping. But Doomsday's got reflexes. With two much huger hands, it grabs both fists mid-punch, crunching Superman's knuckles. It's all the Man of Steel can do to avoid passing out as he goes limp, then slides down a sluice ramp into a steaming puddle of radioactive effluent. Superman sinks. But as his face submerges in vicious fluid, he rallies, sits up, spits out toxic globules, which is what Doomsday was waiting for. As though it were a missile, the beast launches itself at our heaving hero's midsection, using its massive skull as a warhead. Superman tries to straighten, but his stomach is a knot of agony. Doomsday bites his ears, then stomps him down. Exterior Metropolis Street, afternoon. As word quickly spreads, curious crowds gather. Jimmy, who's seen Doomsday firsthand, tries to warn them off.
Distance. This thing is totally out of control.
But his shouts are overpowered by the buzzing throng, and suddenly Jimmy realizes he's lost Lois. Where is she? She's trying to climb down into the hole, hysterical.
I've got to help him. Let go.
Jimmy doesn't. He drags her back onto the sidewalk, an instant before Doomsday bursts back up, triumphant. Doomsday tosses citizens like pickup sticks. Here come the cops, circling the battle scene in combat, cars which they squat behind for cover, unleashing a nasty barrage. But their bullets bounce off Doomsday like tiny corks. And as the cowed cops back off, we hear,
"Oh my God, look!
Again, Jimmy has to hold Lois back as Superman comes struggling out of the hole. He staggers at his opponent, his cape torn, costume ripped, body covered with bruises, blood, and burning chemicals. He gasps a challenge.
Come on. It's me you want, you fat, ugly, brainless fur bag.
Doomsday knows when it's been dissed. It stumbles at our faltering hero. They trade punches that make Rocky look like Yentl, make Tyson's right hook feel like a love tap. With each impact, the odd crowd is doused with alien sweat and alien blood. The two struggling titans careen, breaking walls, windows, sidewalks, and each other's bones. It's like the most violent barroom brawl you've ever seen, and the world's meanest drunk is winning. Interior of the Skull ship at the same time. Luthor teases his hair into a Don King do and crows,
You loved the thriller in Manila. You dug the rumble in the jungle. Tonight, Brain and I bring you the Superman Stoppa in Metropa.
Superman and Doomsday are still duking. Each punch echoes off the skyscrapers, resounds like a hammer of the gods. Superman feels himself succumbing. The world spins.
Can't fall while it lives.
This mumbled pledge spurs him to last pile driver punch that rattles Doomsday's wicked little brain. Makes it wobble. Its knees go rubbery. It topples forward. On the way down, its fist lands on Superman's heart. A cry rises up from the crowd as Krypton's last sun falls on his back, staring blankly at a darkened sky. Everyone is too stunned, too awed to help the fallen warrior. Everyone but Lois, who tears away from Jimmy's grip and kneels beside Superman, gently raising his head, cradling it in her lap. She gently strokes his bloody cheeks, tenderly brushing damp hair from his face. Voice hushed.
Clark. Oh my God, Clark.
Lois, I failed.
No, it's dead. You saved the city.
I mean, with you. I thought we had so much time. I thought...
Lois can't bear another second of self-recrimination.
Shh. None of that. Save your strength.
But it's too late, and they both know it.
Take me home.
And before a bereft Lois can ask where this martyred alien's home might be, his eyelids close. He dies. Interior of the skull ship, same time. Shrieks and bleats and happy howls from the menagerie.
A day without Superman is like a day without sunshine.
Brainiac sits back and smiles.
Okay, we'll come.
Exterior of the Arctic, same time. Indeed, beneath the ice where Clark had bored into the fortress, we detect the warm glow of K, reactivating. Exterior, Metropolis Street, afternoon. Jimmy edges forward, composes his shot. A sort of Pieta, Lois as the Virgin, Superman as Christ. As he clicks.
Give me.
Freeze on a photo that will surely win him a Pulitzer. Interior, Perry White's office that night. It's plastered on the front page of tomorrow's black-bordered Doomsday for Superman, special edition.
Those damn millennialists are already claiming the beast that killed Superman is the beast foretold by Revelations. That these are the last days.
A planet the senior staff is assembled, numb and bleary.
Let's put out the best edition ever. Allay the city. Allay the city's fears. Kent, I need an edition, an editorial that calls on each and every citizen to find the Superman within himself.
Lois swallows hard, stays mum. Now it dawns on White.
Where the hell is Kent?
Maybe Clark, hate to say this, died in Doomsday's rampage?
Well, he better not. Without my permission, he's the damn fine reporter, and this paper needs him.
A moment of silence as everyone hopes against hope.
Lane, go down to the morgue and see if they ID'd anybody yet.
Lois pauses at the door, her voice cracking.
Just be sure you publish this. The biggest heart in Metropolis stopped beating yesterday.
White starts to jot that down, then it hits him.
Whose? Superman's or Kent's?
Doesn't matter?
No one dares question his cryptic response as she exits. Jimmy goes with her for moral support. Exterior City Street, the following morning. The main boulevard is laden with black bunting as solemn crowds mass behind barricades. Women sob, men are stoic, but it's the kids' blank stares that break your heart. Lex, with the mayor and other dignitaries, stands behind Superman's grand bronze casket, mounted on a horse-drawn carriage. He's doing touchy-feely for the TV cameras.
Because we're both well known, our quarrels were well publicized. But privately, Superman and I were pretty close. Which is why it's an honor, in the terrible absence of sun, to light this funeral cortege. Courtesy.
Lex grandly gestures at the 10,000s with his double L logo mounted on cranes at each corner, brightly shining down.
Lex Corporal, helping our city through its darkest hour.
Interior City Morgue, night. As Lois and Jimmy enter, super up, the night before. Lois is a familiar and much-liked presence here, to judge by the reception. As they head for the administrative office, A medical examiner emerges from the post-mortem with his forensics team. They scatter. He spots Lois. Soda.
Miss Lane, please let Metropolis know. We cleaned up Superman, washed his wounds, but no autopsy. It just somehow just didn't seem right.
Lois manages a faint smile, slightly comforted by this.
For now, we're keeping him on ice. He looks good, peaceful. Don't believe me, see for yourself.
Lois reacts. What, gape at my dead lover's body?
Not a bad idea. Hello? Closure?
I hate that word.
What do you want? I'm a photographer.
He gently escorts her into the post-mortem room. Night. Frigid as a meat locker, Superman lies on an exam table in a body bag, which the medical examiner unzips, enough to reveal his face, which indeed looks strangely serene. Lois shivers. Jimmy puts a protective arm around her.
I'm okay. It's just so cold.
Suddenly the penny drops, under her breath.
Oh my god, that's it.
Jimmy looks at her. Wet. To the medical examiner.
He was our friend, and could we be alone with him for a minute?
Of course.
He ducks out. Immediately, Lois dashes to the locker wall, starts pulling out drawers, eyeing stored bodies.
Oh, have you truly lost it?
That day in the Arctic, remember? He said he was going home.
That was Clark, not Superman.
Indulge me. Help me here.
She's found a body the size of a, by the looks of him, transient drunk Superman's size and weight. Reading his toe tag,
John Doe, liver disease.
a reluctant Jimmy helps Lois heft the ungainly body to the table where Superman lies, as we hear, over,
The hero will rest within.
exterior Superman's tomb, morning. Where the procession ended, the city's leaders assemble before a tall but hastily built statue. A sign indicates it's temporary, permanent Superman monument coming soon, thanks for your patience, of the Man of Steel.
Was a most extraordinary man, yet he would have wanted to be remembered as an ordinary one.
Interior of the morgue corridor the night before. These flashbacks are without sound, the mayor's voice continuing over as his eulogy ironically describes both Superman and the anonymous drunk who's actually being buried. Jimmy wheels Superman's shrouded body on a gurney toward the loading dock at the back. Any employee who notices is quickly distracted by Lois, ready with a hello.
Though he was our friend, we never really knew his name.
A wildly oversized bronze coffin is mechanically lowered.
He was never paid a nickel.
Lex slips away to confer with the security guards. Soda.
I want 24/7 watch on this tomb. The second anyone comes poking around, you page me, day or night.
Doesn't want the tomb disturbed. Deep down, the boss is a
That's,
soft.
that's my line.
I'm sorry. As Luthor starts away, guard one, guard two.
Doesn't want the tomb disturbed? Deep down, the boss is a softie.
But suddenly, Luthor is back. He's just remembered.
Keep your eyes peeled for a glowing ball.
The guards nod as Luthor returns to his seat.
He is a wingnut, though.
Exterior, Metropolis Airport, early morning. Lois and Jimmy on the tarmac watch as a plane coffin moves up a conveyor belt into the belly of a jet. Over.
I had no family. I had no place he could call home. And yet,
Exterior, Superman's tomb, morning. The city's leading citizens take turns shoveling dirt onto Superman's casket. Each adds a ceremonial clod.
he had a thirst, a raging thirst, for justice and goodness. So,
It's Luthor's turn. He loads up his spade with a huge pile, then goes for a second one like a gravedigger. The mayor gives Lex a tiny tap on the shoulder. Lex gets the hint. Reluctantly, he sets down the spade and creeps off.
farewell to a penniless, nameless, homeless, thirsty friend.
The mood is marred by shattering glass and police sirens in the background. Guests start to cough from wafting tear gas. Exterior, Arctic weather station that evening. Beyond the handful of Quonset huts, it's all ice field and glaciers. Super up. Eureka, Canada. An Eskimo team transfers the coffin from a turboprop to an 18-foot dog sled. Jimmy snaps pics as an Inuit woman fits sealskin boots on the huskies that'll pull the sled. Meanwhile, a worried Eskimo navigator approaches Lois.
We may have to wait till morning.
Morning? I can't risk that. I let him down when he needed me, and now he needs me more.
Miss Lane,
There's a storm coming.
Lois shakes her head,
Miss
defiantly.
Lane, there's a storm coming.
Lois shakes her head, defiantly stands fast. The navigator sighs, nods, looks down at his lead dog and speaks to him in Aloysian. Subtitle translates.
We have a crazy white lady on our hands.
Exterior tundra that afternoon. Our sled races across an ice field as the navigator uses a simple sextant, steering his dogs accordingly. The winds have kicked up, fierce, frigid. Jimmy turns to Lois, sitting on the far side of Superman's coffin.
Well, you sure didn't have a home and I don't know why.
Suddenly, a sheet of snow severely reduces visibility. The navigator turns and shouts against the wind.
We have to stop. Pitch a tent till.
No, we're almost there, I'm sure.
They nearly broadside an ice block that's just shot up.
Icequake.
The huskies swerve, the sled slides down a sheer ravine. Now it's Jimmy who's screaming. Lois just sits calmly, holding onto the sled with one hand, Superman's coffin with the other. Sure, she's on some kind of holy mission. Even when the sled finally hits level ground and upends, and the humans spill out and the huskies start howling, Lois stays composed, alert. She points.
There.
Under the ice, not 10 yards off, is a warm, glowy light. The navigator squints. He's never seen anything like it. Now the ice starts to crack, a deep fissure forms. Suddenly, Superman's coffin starts to slide off the upended sled into the crevasse, into the glow. And when it disappears beneath the permafrost, the fissure spontaneously closes, almost like a living thing. Like...
Miracle.
Jimmy snaps a pic. Lois lets out a breath, murmurs.
Maybe I'm not a crazy white lady.
You speak Aleutian?
Just enough to get by.
As they all jump back onto the sled.
You think maybe another miracle is waiting for Superman down there?
I don't know, Jimmy.
Her voice cracks along with the crack of the navigator's whip. As the sled dogs set off, Lois gives the frozen resting place a goodbye look and whispers a farewell.
Welcome home, whoever you were.
Interior of the fortress, same time. We're looking up through the ice ceiling, watching from below as the dog sled passes overhead, then disappears. Now tilt down to the cold fortress floor where the coffin broke up into planks. But where is Superman's body? Carved into the floor like a natural spa bath is a deep tub. The tub is filled with a thick, green, warm, gelatinous fluid. From above, it looks unoccupied, but as we push in, then dissolve inside the tub, we see Superman, lying suspended in the gel, naked and battered, as tragic and noble as a fallen warrior as Hector in the Iliad. A light flickers above, like a star in the night sky. K.
Some human friends brought your body. They must have endured a great deal to travel so far.
Close on Superman's face, distressingly blank, insensate.
Perhaps all that you've done for people was worth it in the end.
Wait, is there the faintest sign of Superman's eyeballs minutely twitching beneath closed lids?
You lie in a Kryptonian Emerson tank. Its resuscitation gel was developed under the direction of your father. It is rich with electrolytes, rare amino acids, and vital essences. But the gel alone is not a guarantee to revive you.
Yes, Superman's eyeballs move a little more, as though in the depths of his coma he's marked K's warning.
You must want to come back, Kal-El. You must fight for your future.
K's circumference and magnitude expand. If Superman's world has shrunk to the boundaries of this tub, then K is now the size and brightness of his personal yellow sun.
And your past.
As heat increases, the gel starts to boil. The churning animates Superman's body a bit. He's falling in place.
Now I may not be real, but I know much. You, on the other hand, have forgotten almost everything.
As if protesting his oblivion, Superman's eyes start to flicker wildly now behind his eyelids, and we go in tight on those eyelids, even through them, as we hear.
So I will fill your mind again with sights you never saw.
Interior of Superman's mind, montage. Customarily called a dream sequence, but the style of the dream sequence is usually all fog and diffusion and dissolves, whereas this one is clear, bright, and quick.
With Krypton, when it was great.
A bizarrely beautiful alien flower sprouts up at the camera.
And when it was in great pain.
The flower is swallowed up in the final quake's fissure.
When science promised deliverance.
An ethereal orb that assumes form from nothingness.
And when it portended disaster.
The orb glows, warm, blank like a lamp. Then the face of Brainiac fades up, grinning with the arrogance of evil. Back in the tank, some dire primal memory connected to this image causes Superman's body to convulse, helpless inside the gel. K looms very big and very bright as he commands.
Kal-El, regain control. Think of something comforting. Think of your mother who swaddled you.
Back to the montage. Exterior rooftop launch pad at dawn. Krypton's final hour as Jor-El hurries K inside the craft. We see the farewell scene play out from within. Inside the space capsule, as it was faithfully recorded for posterity by K.
This monster, Brainiac, he is in some sense my child.
While urging Lara with her baby inside.
No, Kal-El is your child.
Jor-El knows that. Right now he is whispering a few last words in his son's ear. This time we hear what he says.
Kal-El, I don't know about life on Earth. Only that its humans look like us. So you will fit in there if you choose. But the laws of physics suggest Earth's yellow sun may give you advantages.
The baby stares with poignant innocence at his father.
Don't abuse those advantages, my son. For whatever powers you may find on Earth, you will always be a guest. And what a guest must always do is serve, help, and give.
Then solemnly kisses his forehead while telling Lara.
When I've done what I can, I'll use the second ship to join you.
Behind him, we see the rooftop door open. Brainiac silently scuttles toward Jor-El, who continues unaware.
Kay, will you get there unharmed? Above all, in my absence, he's programmed to safeguard Kal-El.
Kal-El watches in mute instinctive horror as a tentacle wraps around his father's neck, lifts him off the ground.
Where is it? Where's Kay?
Lara scrambles back out of the craft, closing the hatch, darkening the screen, blocking out the final atrocity.
Oh, no!
Interior fortress. Superman violently thrashes in the throes of this nightmare.
Be still, Kal-El, or your heart may stop again. Fill it with whatever you cling to life.
And the ball of light, shimmering above, morphs into the face of a girl, shining bright as a supernova. Lois Lane. Superman's body goes limp. He lapses back into a yielding state of suspended animation. And Kay's work continues. Exterior Metropolis, midday. But it looks like night as we glide over the sun-blocked city. The main light sources remain those LexCorp 10,000, now mounted on cherry pickers at nearly every corner. Super up, noon, 2 weeks later. The secondary light sources are the fires being set by unruly citizens. We glimpse all of this below, then land at Lex's office window. He stands here surveying the chaos.
Mr. Luthor, don't make me beg.
Interior of Luthor's office, noon. The mayor stands behind Luthor in a submissive posture.
2 more weeks of paying for your life at the full rate. I'm gonna have to lay off even more cops. Couldn't you, a discount?
Lex turns. We see without Superman to hamper him, he has scaled even greater heights of arrogance and greed.
Bob, the free market doesn't mean I market something, you get it free. It means if I have something you need, you'll pay through the nose for it.
A knock on Lex's door. He crosses, opens it to find...
Still no sign of the ball of light near Superman's tomb, sir.
Thank you, Charlie. If you'll excuse me, Bob, I must talk to the man upstairs.
I'm sure God will counsel you to show some mercy to Metropolis.
Who said anything about God?
Scared, the mayor scrams. Lex dials a number. Intercut, interior of the Skull ship, same time. Brainiac picks up a bizarre-looking receiver.
Tell me you've captured K.
Off Lex's negative response, he barks at his beast crew.
Ready the skiff.
The airlock opens, uncovering the small commuter craft.
Something stinks here, Luthor, and it better not be you.
Exterior of Superman's tomb, afternoon, 10 minutes later. The makeshift statue has still not been replaced. Except for Luthor's 2 guards, the place is eerily desolate. They sit on the tomb, gun belts loosened, eating lunch.
Man, I must have put on 10 pounds since we started safeguarding the sanctity of Superman's memory.
Now there's an unearthly light, roar and wind from above. The guards jump up, hurriedly buckling their pants and fumbling for their guns as Brainiac's skiff touches down. He steps out. Freaked, Guard 1 fires. Brainiac grouses.
Do they give anyone a handgun on this planet?
The guards turn tail and run away. Brainiac squats like a huge scorpion over the tomb, peels back the plaque like a sardine can, pulls up the big coffin. It comes out of the ground with a giant sucking sound, then rips off the lid, revealing the body of...
A common vagabond?
Whips a tentacle around the corpse's neck, angrily yanks him out of the coffin and dangles the remains in midair.
While all along I'm waiting for K like some gullible immigrant.
With a death ray, he contemptuously carbonizes the corpse.
What presumptuous person has the gall to mess with Brainiac?
Cut to Lois Lane. As she knocks, no answer. Too bad. She barges into interior Perry White's office, afternoon. His busted windows are all boarded over now. Sounds of rioting drift up from the street. He sits in darkness.
Mr. White, I know it's a tough time for everyone, but I lost somebody very close to me, and if I'm cooped up here day after day, I'll go crazy. It's good for me to get back into the fray, and it's good for this paper.
What? Another dead feature writer?
Then, regretting this harsh outburst, he takes a breath.
I'm sorry, Lois. But I miss Kent. Clark, it's just gotten too hairy out there. The absence of sun seems to make people crazy.
Then how would that explain LA?
Interior Planet newsroom, afternoon. Just as Jimmy steps off the elevator with 3 male reporters straggling in from the field, adrenalized.
Oh, looks like a war zone. It's like I'm the guy from Salvador.
It's like I'm Mary Tyler Moore.
He steps onto the elevator car.
Wait, where you going?
Where else? To war.
She hits door closed, and Jimmy hops back on. Interior, fortress, same time. Superman still lies inert in the gel, but his body is no longer blue with bruises. His limbs have untwisted. Abruptly, he opens his eyes. Kay floats up over his tub.
Welcome back, Kal-El.
Superman sits up, blinks, stretches his muscles, which feel not so muscular. He climbs out of the deep tub and stands here naked, shivering, vulnerable. Squints up at the ball of light.
Why did you call me Kal-El?
That is your name. You are the last son of Krypton.
Till further notice, we'll call him Kal-El too.
But this can't be Krypton. I'm here on this planet.
Kay is silent, prompting Kal-El to recall.
Wait, to serve, to give.
Sounds simple enough, but
What about Brainiac?
Brainiac is the past. Even the alloys he was made of, even the alloys he was made of, could not have survived Krypton's inferno.
Oh, well, good. It's good, right?
Yes, good.
they stare at each other, naked male and glowing orb.
But you're still activated, meaning I still need protection. Why?
Your powers have been stolen.
Kal-El reacts.
By whom?
Kay just hums. He has no idea. And Kal-El's shoulders sag.
Then how can I serve?
Just stand very still.
And he floats forward, gently colliding with Kal-El. Then breaks on him like a ball of mercury, dripping down his length and reconstituting as a new suit. Capeless, darker than the old suit, rather mysterious, yet markedly reminiscent of Jor-El's outfit in the prologue. Kay's voice now resonates from a force field around Kal-El.
You'll find I'm highly resistant to heat and impact.
As Kal-El curiously touches the fabric, which fits like a second protective skin.
Feels strange.
When we last met, you seemed eager to become Kryptonian. Well, you won't come any closer than this.
All the while, something is forming on Kal-El's face. He reaches up to his eyes and finds a pair of reflective goggles that eerily obscure his features.
They restore your X-ray vision.
Kal-El looks around with them, then down at his chest plate, senses something's missing. Dimly remembers.
An S. It stood for,
Your father, Jor-El's passion, science. Now it substitutes for strength and speed. Should you have to use force, rely on it.
And forming on his chest while he watches is a new insignia. 3-dimensional, made of some very solid metal, and in 3 parts. The shield breaks into halves, and as he fingers the S itself, Kal-El finds that it's...
sharp.
Kal-El stares, bemused, as his palm bleeds real blood.
It's a weapon.
Ah,
Then looks down at his palm as something materializes.
There's a pocket-sized one as well.
As Kal-El tucks it away,
Now take a deep breath
Kal-El Labib.
and let it out slowly.
Kal-El does, but not gradually enough. There's a windstorm in here that shears ice crystals off the walls, filling the air with turbulent, frigid mist.
Slowly?
Kal-El gets the message. The windstorm dully dies down.
wonderful. But what if I got to sneeze?
You will cup both hands tightly around your nose. Such is the burden of a superhero.
Kal-El painfully processes this.
I'm a superhero. So long as you're near.
For now.
Kal-El nods. Some primal memory prompts Kal-El to jump on his toes for flight, except he stays earthbound.
What happened?
Nothing.
I know that.
And then, sprouting under and around him, are aerodynamic projections, a sleek tailpiece, 2 stealth-like wings.
You'll find the controls very intuitive.
There are none.
Exactly.
Abruptly, Kal-El arches his back, then blasts through the fortress's ice roof, leaving a gash in the permafrost. Exterior tundra afternoon. As a newly outfitted Kal-El sails off, we get a last look into the fortress, fully exposed now to the light. Without Kay's presence, it looks utterly barren. Just an inhospitable hole in the ice. Exterior, Metropolis intersection, afternoon, an hour later. We're at the flashpoint of unrest. Metropolis is Florence and Normandy, and although, according to Title Up, it's only 4 p.m., the town is still in Lex-induced twilight. Cars have been burned to black husks. The silhouettes of rioters streak furtively in and out of stores long since stripped of their wares. A duet of gunshots and sirens. 3 looters are just emerging through the smashed window of a home electronics store, arms laden with expensive AV equipment. and startled to encounter Lois Lane standing alone here, pen and notepad ready.
So why are you doing this? For cheap thrills or quick profit?
The looters trade looks. What to do with this nosy babe?
I want to quote your side of the story in the Planet, using just your first names to protect you.
Quoted? In a newspaper? Suddenly they all strike poses.
Okay, see, we were all tripped out on account of Superman died and everything. It's like tragedy that haunts our nights.
And since we got constant nights here, that's a whole lot of hunted.
Ah, I get it. Stealing stereos is how you grieve. It's therapeutic.
The looters aren't happy. They start to jostle her.
Lady likes fancy words. I like simple words too. Say cheese.
Jeez.
A flash lights their faces. It's Jimmy, of course. Looter 1 rips the camera from his grip.
Guys, no pictures, no peace.
But we already got a piece, see?
Looter 3 pulls out a shotgun, starts to rack it, but...
Give the boy his camera back. Let's all be helpful here.
Jor-El stands in shadow, intermittently lit by the flickering fires, cloaked in the strange suit, face half hidden by the X-ray goggles like a hip-hop Phantom of the Opera. Back to the scene, all 5 are jolted, including Lois and Jimmy, who not only don't recognize the resurrected hero, but aren't totally sure this apparition is one of the good guys.
Hey, that shield's the bomb. Looks like genuine platinum. Hey, bro?
Jor-El stands impassive as looters 1 and 2 greedily grab at his shield. And howl! The damn edge is razor sharp.
That vinyl bodysuit don't breathe. I think you need air holes.
He fires as Jor-El's body armor absorbs the blast.
And I think you need manners.
His goggles flash. The heat makes the shotgun's barrel go humiliatingly limp. Looter 1 returns Jimmy's camera, quick, to him and Lois.
Move away from these men. They still have a negative attitude.
Yes, sir.
The camera at his side, Jimmy surreptitiously turns off the flash and snaps a clandestine photo of the dark figure. Then Jimmy takes Lois's hand to hurry her away.
That's spooky or what?
What? Don't we know him?
You've dated.
She gives him a semi-playful punch, but the faraway look on her face doesn't fade as they round the corner. Back to Jor-El. He pauses at a burning storefront, takes a breath, and with one exhale blows out the flames. Here's...
Hey! I set that fire!
Jor-El turns as the arsonist squeezes off around. Jor-El catches the bullet and studies it curiously. The arsonist figures it's time to go home. Now.
You forgot about this.
Flicks the bullet at the arsonist, running off. It hits him in the ass, hard enough to make him jump like a gored matador and run twice as fast when he touches back down. Then whirls on a punk who's cornered a frightened little boy trying to make his way home from school.
You're scaring the boy.
A look at his accuser and the punk scurries off rat-like. Now Jor-El turns to the little boy still standing here.
Shall I walk you home?
But the boy has only lingered because he's paralyzed with fear. Abruptly he runs off too, as though for his life. Jor-El is a bit confused, a bit heartbroken. Watching the boy race away, he murmurs a phrase from his past.
You're safe now. Superman says so.
Then wonders at the strange sounding
Superman.
By now the street is completely cleared, desperately unsure as he stands alone here, surveying the damage.
This city is my home.
Does it look like your home?
No. Do we sense Brainiac?
We do not.
Kal-El continues striding down the street, darkly muses.
And that woman, that attractive woman, we don't recognize her, do we?
I have seen her before.
You have? Where?
In your dream.
And Kal-El lets out a breath, slowly. Over, we hear,
So who is this new super nemesis?
interior skull ship, afternoon, 2 days later. Luthor and Brainiac squint at the monitor. It's a noisy, snowy signal. Through the interference, we can just make out Kal-El restoring order to the streets of Metropolis.
I'm not sure, but his force field plays hell with picture quality. Only K has that kind of power.
We masterminded Soup's demise. Don't tell me you murder a guy and then 2 weeks later he's back. Like that in a groovier suit.
But Superman wasn't buried in his tomb, so whether we killed him is, at best, an open question.
This only makes Luthor pace harder, faster, more fretful.
If it's him, which it can't be, and he's back, which he isn't, he'll assume, without a shred of evidence, that I planned his death, and then he'll kick me, beat me, and whip me like a dog.
Brainiac doesn't react, just studies the screen.
And then with this K character, he's bound to connect you with me, and together they'll fly up here and tie your tentacles in a knot.
Brainiac's been watching Kal-El clank and strut, though it's not in the clearest focus, it's enough to inspire fear. And suddenly, fear inspires an idea.
If Soup's merged with K, then we need to level the playing field.
How? He's all tricked up now with new toys. We don't know what they do. Maybe he unzips his fly and a ballistic missile pops out.
Don't you get it? How to turn it around. Go from dog to God.
He parts his cape, bids,
Come in, Lex.
Come in... what? Where?
In. Side. And soon.
Since the vexed Lex hasn't taken a step closer, Brainiac creeps slowly toward him, wearing a waxy, inviting smile.
You want the top technology in the universe. All the comfort of a soup-proof container. I want
The savvy know-how can-do of Earth's most inquisitive tycoon.
all of the above.
Luthor does some of the quick, ruthless calculations that made him his 26 billion, then bursts out.
I agree. It's a brilliant merger. Bigger than RJR and Nabisco. United, we will crush our competition.
Lex glances down, suddenly shy.
Will it hurt?
I've done this plenty, Lex. Relax.
With a free tentacle, he feels around the console, finds a button, hits it. The skull ship fills with Kryptonian lounge music, sort of a Baccarat by the way of theremin. Brainiac's force field meets Lex's ego. As the energies mingle, there is a crackling in the air between them. The music segues into something off-world Wagnerian as Lex's limbs and face stretch and swell towards Brainiac's, whose parts begin to bulge towards the tycoons.
Lex. Hey, Luthor. We're not supposed to meet in the middle.
He clenches his titanium jaw, pours on the cyber power for one last big push, till Lex's eyes roll up and his body loses dimensionality. And with a cry, the flattened fat cat is sucked into Brainiac like a rag in a hoover.
Done.
And done.
Brainiac takes a take, turns, does a double take, sees Luthor is right here, his head anyway, jammed in next to Brainiac. They're like Satan's Siamese twins.
Excuse me. We were supposed to fuse together, not room together.
Hey, I'm clean. I don't smoke. I never leave hairs in the sink.
He brings up their body to its newly higher height.
And we're so substantial now.
Kicks up a leg that's suddenly less spindly and filled out, as is the rest of Brainiac now with Lex's flesh.
Who needs to hide beneath some ankle-length Kryptonian cape.
He flings it off, fully exposing the sturdy new form, admiring its reflection in the eye socket window.
I always wanted to be part real.
I always wanted to be part fake.
Beasts of terror from the crew and menagerie alike, the monster gazes down at Metropolis, darkly gloats.
Look out below.
Interior Daily Planet newsroom, afternoon. Jimmy downloads his latest disc of digital photos. Lois stands behind him, studies Kal-El's image on the monitor.
You don't think.
I think I do think.
Because of that, the ads for, I don't know, pseudo.
In which case, he'd wear a big P.
Whatever. Point is, Superman is human. And this individual is so not human.
Lois doesn't bother arguing the point.
Can you show me his eyes?
Jimmy does some tweaks on the keypad. The goggle lenses lighten and we see the eyes. Distant, haunted, familiar.
I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe a non-human can be as human as you or I, if we treat him that way.
Jimmy watches her studying those eyes on the screen. He knows there's something she's not saying. Now, over.
So, what's our new corporate name?
Interior of the skull ship, same time. The mongrel monster is downing some noxious celebratory drink. Kryptonian crystal that froths like dry ice.
Rex?
To hair care. Luthiac?
To mandolin maker. Brainlex?
Not dignifying this with a response, the Luthor half propels their joint body over to an eye socket. Looks down at Metropolis, quickly zeroes in on a target.
Well, for our first trick, we'll decapitate the Daily Planet.
A sizzling death ray shoots out. Exterior Daily Planet building, afternoon. And striking the gorgeous granite globe atop the Daily Planet building. Dislodges the thing whole. It rolls off the roof like a 10-ton bowling ball of Zeus. Interior of the newsroom, same time, the building shakes. Lois and Jimmy turn to the window in time to see the globe plummet toward the busy street. Scores of pedestrians stroll, blissfully unaware, beneath the rapidly dropping sphere, with the globe just a few feet above the crowd's heads. Kal-El swoops in with his K-wings, leans his head forward to catch the massive thing on his shoulders, skids to a safe stop in the middle of an intersection 2 blocks from the Planet building. It's frozen in stunned tribute to the mysterious savior. Kal-El kneels, whirled on his back, a bizarrely beautiful alien atlas, then startles at the gawking crowd. Interior of skull ship, same time.
New fashion, same show-off. I'll fry him in front of his fans.
Propelled by Brainiac half, the monster staggers back.
Oh, he's cloaked in Kryptonian body armor. We need to set a trap, not throw a tantrum.
Okay, chill. I'm new at this.
Exterior, intersection, afternoon, a moment later. A breathless Lois races up, Jimmy just a step behind.
Where'd he go?
The crowd points up. Lois and Jimmy crane to see. Kal-El, who's flown back to the top of the Planet building where he bends up a strut from the roof, then securely sets the globe atop it like an olive on a toothpick. Gives the globe a farewell spin, then flies off in a darkened sky. Back to the scene, the media have now arrived en masse, a moment too late. A stretch limo pulls up. The mayor jumps out with his entourage just as a squadron of cop cars screams to a stop, disgorging the Metropolis police commissioner.
Disappeared again? But I brought him a key to the city.
He dangles a huge gold-bladed key. The commissioner dejectedly flashes a big badge.
I was going to deputize him.
Jimmy starts photographing all those frustrated civic leaders who'd come this close to making the 6 o'clock news.
I'll be back at the office.
But the street is cordoned off by cops, so she cuts through. Exterior alleyway, late afternoon. Lois is alone in this narrow, shadowy passageway, or so she thinks. It's pretty creepy, even before she starts to notice a faint rustling behind her. What, rats? Lois doesn't think so. She keeps walking, trying to stay calm and focused as she reaches into her handbag for that pepper spray. Nearly jumps out of her skin as she hears,
Keep walking. Don't turn around.
The voice is deep, detached, and utterly terrifying. Her hand tightens on the vial as she sees the shadow of a tall man closing in behind her. Feels his breath as...
When I see you, I feel a connection.
Oh, well, connect with this.
He whirls, emptying the pepper spray in the eyes of Kal-El, who without expression wipes the stuff off his goggles, then steps back into shadow quick as a cat.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Did I hurt you?
She wants to touch him. She's desperate to, but she resists. He's like a wild animal who'd only run away.
Do you know me?
Even with the goggles, even cloaked in darkness, Lois is finally sure, now that she can see him in the flesh.
Thank you, God.
And she collects herself as calmly as she can.
Yes, of course. You're Clark.
The name clearly means nothing to Kal-El.
Superman?
That name again. And now he makes a connection.
I crushed some coal for you.
He studies his empty, gloved palm, trying to make sense.
Why did I do that?
To show that a Superman could care about a mortal woman.
You mean love?
Lois nods. Yes, love, exactly. But
I'm not sure what that means. Have I seen it in this town?
Maybe not. Things here are messed up since somebody died.
So dark. Does the sun never come out in Metropolis?
Lois, relaxing a bit, resumes walking. Kal-El falls into step, but right behind her, reluctant to be seen.
You don't know about the eclipse? Okay, it started a few weeks ago. Nobody's sure why, but I suspect, as did you, a man named Luthor.
Oh, Luthor, friend of Brainiac?
Brainiac. Doesn't ring a bell?
They've reached the end of the alley. Though she knows he's painfully shy of her, she turns directly to him.
Look, let's find a safe, quiet place, just the two of us. We were friends once. Close. Very. You can trust me, and I can help you put the pieces back together.
In the distance, a cry. Someone in trouble.
I have to go. I have to help.
But how will I...
Take this to remember me.
He hands Lois a pocket-sized version of his S weapon. She studies it, feeling a surge of emotion. Impulsively,
And this, to remember me.
turning to embrace him, she realizes he's gone. Out of habit, she gazes into the sky. Kal-El's not there either. Now we're looking down on her, looking up. From inside the skull ship, same time. Lexiac is watching Lois on the monitor as she slowly drifts across the street and back into her building.
The Daily Planet's queen.
Is about to be our pawn.
Interior of the newsroom, afternoon, a moment later. Lois comes off the elevator and hears,
All for Miss Lane.
already semi-elated, she grabs the nearest phone.
Lois Lane.
Then startles as she hears a smooth, seductive voice.
Miss Lane, Lex Luthor. Hi. I've been shamelessly ducking you for so long. The fact is, I finally run out of excuses.
Exterior, planet building, afternoon, a minute later. Lois hurries out, nearly running over.
How were you racing to?
Luthor's office. Guess he finally realized you can run from Lois Lane, but you cannot hide from her.
With foreboding as she hails a cab.
Let me tag along. Snap some pics.
Just Lex and me, per his request. I sense he's in a confessional, tell-though-all mood, so warn Perry to keep 2 columns open, front page, tomorrow, above the fold.
Then, dizzy with excitement, kisses Jimmy's cheek, leaving him reeling as she confides.
Oh, Jimmy, it's him.
Ooh, Lupa?
Luthor, are you kidding?
And she's gone, leaving him every bit as confused as a beautiful woman can leave a young man. Interior, skull ship, same time. Lexiac watches on the monitor as Jimmy watches Lois's cab speed off, then hails 1-2.
Adam and Naive.
Exterior LexCorp corridor, early evening, later. Lois, alone in the hall, knocks on Lex's massive door.
Mr. Luthor?
The door creaks open as though by itself. Lois enters. Interior of Luthor's office, early evening. It's dark in here. Lois's ears prick up at the faint scurrying sound. The door creaks closed behind her.
Mr. Luthor, it's Lois.
Lane, who else? How do you do?
He glides into frame, face lit by a candle he's holding.
Sit. I've arranged a little supper.
He gestures her to a table by the window, set for two.
I'm taping our interview for your protection too, if you don't mind.
Luthor sits opposite Lois, gazing out the window so that only his three-quarter profile is visible to her.
Not at all, Miss Lane. Or can't it be, Lois and Lex? Somehow Miss seems wrong for a gal like you. Hit springs to mind.
I don't know whether you're making a threat or a pass, Mr. Luthor, but neither one is working. So let's just talk about the eclipse. Just before he died, Superman...
Ah, yes. Personal friend. Of us both. Tell me, Lois, do you pine for the late, great Man of Steel? Or is it like he never left?
Without turning his head, he casts a beady eye at her.
I believe we're here to discuss your business, not mine.
Behind her, more scurrying. But as she starts to turn...
Tell you what, first, I'll field a question, then you'll handle one. Did I cause the eclipse? Duh, who else could have done it? Now your turn. You named him Superman, but why exactly? Aside from obvious tricks, gimmicks, and vulgar displays, just what did he do that was so gosh darn super that somebody else, say me, hasn't got? And if he's so super, then why is he dead? Or is he dead, Lois? Huh? Answer me that.
That was either 5 questions, Lex, or one long sob of envy.
Fine. I just thought with that blowhard and a leotard out of the way, we could make little music. Lexi and Lo, the double L's.
Lois grabs her recorder and rises.
You want a double L? How about Leavenworth for life? I have your confession on tape, Luthor. The DA will file this or will fill in the blanks.
Cut.
The lights blaze on and we see what all the scurrying was about. 2 menagerie beasts grab Lois as Luthor turns to her full face, gestures to the formerly hidden side.
Meet my bitter half.
Scream, defenseless female. It's what you're dying to do.
As the beasts hustle her out to the interior of the corridor, if Lois was ever going to scream, she damn sure won't do it now. Brazenly staring at the second face, it hits her.
You're Brainiac.
The Baron of Brilliant, Sultan of Smart, guy who put the I in IQ.
Lois is pushed into the service stairwell. Hold. Now, the elevator arrives. Jimmy steps out into an empty hall.
Lois,
Silence. Then, bang, the stairwell door swings closed. Exterior LexCorp roof. Evening, a moment later. Jimmy dashes out of the stairwell onto the rooftop, just as the skiff blasts straight up into the night.
Lois,
The skiff is gone,
Lois,
but Jimmy's shoe kicks something. Lois's cassette recorder. Jimmy grabs it. Dropped in the struggle, it's still recording. He hits rewind and hears,
You're Brainiac. I am not a hostage. I write about hostages. Don't dare abduct me.
Why? Who'll save you? Stuperman?
Jimmy pockets the recorder, races back down the stairs. Exterior Metropolis Street, that night. A lone looter lofts a brick through a plate glass window, then another brick, and another broken window. As the alarm sound he hears from the shadows.
Raise your hands and turn around. You aren't helping, are you?
Looter flinches as 2 gleaming shapes come flying at him, pin his shirt sleeves over his head against the wall. Kal-El comes out of the darkness and reacts.
You're...
Jimmy Olsen, Daily Planet.
He squints. Tries to make out Kal-El's eyes behind the goggles, but sees only his own agitated reflection.
I bust those windows hoping you show. It's Lois. Lois Lane, she's been kidnapped.
Kal-El doesn't react.
By someone called Brainiac.
This gets an immediate response. Kal-El pulls the two pieces out of the cement, freeing Jimmy and replaces them on his chest as the border of his S shield.
Brainiac's alive? Here? Where?
Jimmy points straight up.
Yeah, I think. Luthor.
Kal-El looks up, searches the night skies. Goggles flash as his artificial supervision discerns above the clouds the Skull ship, docked at the epicenter of the Shadowcaster with its dozens of videocam eyes affixed like hideous growths to the base, and brazenly staring back at him. Back to sea, and Kal-El turns back to Jimmy, who's also staring at him.
Lois is right. You are Superman.
No. Superman had powers. I have hardware.
To say it out loud makes him madder. Suddenly he turns his face up to the sky again. Like the ultimate schoolyard challenge, he cups his hands to his mouth and shouts.
Brainiac!
Jimmy jumps back, half deafened. Interior of the Skull ship, same time. Lexiac was just standing at the rim of the menagerie, looking down at Lois, who struggles in a giant web here. He laughs at the super shout, scuttles to the monitor.
Plan is working perfectly.
Crusading reporter makes incriminating tape,
Photo boy finds crusading reporter's tape recorder.
then flushes out Krypton's suicidal son. Points mad.
Our Venus flytrap.
It's from Thanagar, not Venus.
Once again, mightily resounding from below.
Brainiac!
Adrian!
Brainiac switches on a mic, adjusts broadcast bandwidth.
This one goes out to dogs and aliens. Hope he's got his hearing aid turned on.
Evening, Superman. We have something of yours. A youngish human female called Lois Lane.
Exterior Metropolis Street, close on Kal-El's goggles where the end piece hooks behind his ears. And yes, a sensor here picks up.
Whom will trade for my kind of kid brother a little item called K that I forgot to pack in all the excitement of Krypton blowing.
Interior Skull ship, same time. Lois writhes in the web, dislodging bits and pieces of past alien prey that repulsively rain down on her as...
Don't trust him. It's a trap.
Lexiac turns back to Lois, sneers.
Rest your lungs, hun. Super Stud can't hear your girlish gasps.
Meantime, Kal-El has considered Brainiac's offer. He cups his hands around his mouth and loudly counters.
I don't care about the female. I'll swap K for the satellite.
Jimmy reacts with disbelief. Inside the Skull ship, the two halves of Lexiac trade looks.
It's a deal.
It's a trick. Why would he want a satellite more than a woman?
He wrecks the satellite, regains his power. That's all he craves.
He may not be a human, but he's no cyborg. You saw how he looked at her back in the alley. I promise it's a ploy, Brain. He wants his woman back.
A glance over his shoulder at Lois in glamorous disarray.
This is not rocket science.
Nonsense. I know he wants power.
And Brainiac half grabs the mic.
Sold, American, Superman. Stroke of midnight, you show at the Shadowcaster. Just return dear lost Long K, and you can swing a wrecking ball for all I care.
Clicks off the microphone, and Luthor half petitions.
At least let me nuke him with my sun gun.
Exterior Metropolis Street, night. Desperate, Jimmy trails Kal-El down the dark street.
Please, Superman. Wherever you are, sir, Lois. She adores you. Don't leave her up there.
Ignoring the young photographer, Kal-El arches his back in preparation for takeoff. Wings, tailpiece sprout.
Remember, I was the property of your father, Jor-El, not that plunderer of planets, Brainiac.
Single-minded Kal-El grimly ignores K, too, as he zooms up into the sky and off into the night. Skull ship, midnight, later, as Lexiac off the monitor watches Kal-El approach.
If this sun gun of yours isn't fully charged, it's likely to...
Lex Luthor doesn't go off half-cocked. Oh, it's charged all right, and it's ready to blow. You see the size of that thing?
Brainiac, half skeptical, keeps squinting at the screen. Exterior, space with Kal-El. As they gain altitude, K's normally dispassionate computer-programmed tone starts to grow subtly heated.
Kal-El, all my circuits are on red alert. You are in increasing danger. I may have to abort this flight if you don't.
And send me plummeting 6 miles to my death? Don't try to bluff me, Kay. It's not your strong suit.
And he keeps soaring upwards, ever closer to the Shadowcaster. It hovers, grandly maleficent, against the midnight sun. Now Brainiac's Beast Brigade gets cracking, manning the battle stations and shattering in strange tongues as Kal-El approaches. As he takes a second sustained look at the gigantic sun gun above, Kay makes a last impassioned plea.
If I can't persuade you to turn back, Kal-El, at least promise me you'll stay well away from the cannon's line of fire.
Yes, Mother.
Interior skull ship at the console. Though the image remains jammed by Kay's force field, Lexiac can see Kal-El well enough. Hear Kay rejoin.
Make fun if you wish, but Krypton's last sun won't become a charred skeleton on my watch.
And Kal-El abruptly swerves away from the cannon. The Luthor half crows.
You saw my gun? He's jumpier than a jackrabbit. And why? Because he knows it'll blacken his bones.
Brainiac half is now a believer.
Not because he knows, but because K does. And K is an extraordinarily smart program, almost on par with Brainiac.
He reaches for the radio.
Today, his infallibility will doom Superman, and K will be mine. No more scavenging. Perpetual power.
Both halves bark to the beast's manning of the Shadowcaster.
Deploy the sun.
Interior Shadowcaster command module, midnight. Brainiac's beast swing into action per blared commands.
30 degrees to the left. Get the craft in your crosshairs.
With Kal-El as K senses the cannon shifting almost before it happens.
Evade! Evade!
Brainiac!
Veers upward as he shouts.
Brainiac, Luthor, we had a deal.
Interior of the skull ship, the Luthor half smiles.
Proper use of the past tense.
You don't let me land, I don't give you K.
Oh well. Guess I'll just have to peel K off your smoking corpse.
Now broadcasts to the Man of Steel.
Sorry, seems we had a little snafu in the chain of command.
Meantime, Lois has conserved enough energy to yell.
It's an ambush! Turn back!
Instantly, a dozen baby mutant spiders come skittering down the web around Lois, snapping their jaws at her.
I must warn you, Miss Lane. The acoustical vibrations of your rather high-pitched shouts attract the snare beast's starving babies.
The sight of all these hideous newborns make Lois finally lose it. Off her shrieks to the Luthor half.
I knew she'd scream eventually.
Pleased, he sits back, shuts his eyes.
Now let me do some quick probability calculations.
A series of high-pitched whirring sounds as Brainiac's hard drive spins up, now coolly into the radio.
Superman's next evasive maneuver will be a sharp dip to the right.
The following sequence unfolds very quickly. In the Shadowcaster command module, the beasts swing the cannon accordingly. Kal-El again, K instantly senses the barrel's movement.
Kal-El!
Who takes immediate evasive action. He dips sharply to the right. Inside the Shadowcaster command module, the cannon is already in position.
Craft is coming into crosshairs.
Inside the skull ship, the Brainiac half becomes chillingly calm and precise.
Focus beam. Good. Now aim it at the pilot's head.
Bonus points between the eyes.
No!
Kal-El swoops down, glances up, and sees...
They've locked on.
Inside the Shadowcaster, we're peering through the sun gun's infrared scope. Kal-El's looking right at us, and the bridge of his nose is in the bullseye.
He's mine.
The big moment. Both halves bark in unison.
Fire.
The beast gunner hits the beam button. With a deafening buzz, the sun gun emits hyper-concentrated ray of hyper-activated solar energy that shoots across the vacuum of space, striking Kal-El square in the forehead. The hit is so devastatingly dead-on, impact so immense that for a moment, not only Kal-El but the entire screen is obliterated by blinding light. Interior of the skull ship, Lexiac stands, awed, watching from an eye socket. We see Kal-El's lit-up silhouette, huge sparking flames flying off it as though it were a man-sized Roman candle.
Oops. Looks like Soup went outside without his sunblock.
Lois, down in the menagerie, can't see what's happening, but she hears the horrible sizzle, and that's much worse. Her body goes limp. She hangs from the web, softly sobs.
Too bad the citizens of Earth didn't see us atomize their mighty Superman. We could have held them up for cash, cars, designer clothes, and the love of beautiful women.
Speaking of whom,
He turns their joint body to get round to gape at captive Lois.
we could have her love right now.
Actually, I'd rather see her eaten by the Thanagarian snare beast.
And so they miss. Exterior of the space, the sparks subside and the light fades from blinding to merely dazzling, revealing Superman. Yes, let's call him Superman again. He's not only survived, but like a vampire in reverse, the sun restored him. The beam has blasted off the now superfluous flight accessories, wings and tail, as well as his K-suit, revealing a reconstructed classic caped suit beneath. The one remnant of his alien suit is the platinum shield which glints, proud and powerful on Superman's chest. The rejuvenated Man of Steel floats in space under his own power while K, back in basic glowing ball mode, excitedly flies around Superman's head, a fiery crown.
Whoa. That dose of yellow sun was what the doctor ordered.
How did you know the gun wouldn't be at full power?
Luthor, he always exaggerates. And call me Superman.
So saying, he rockets towards the Shadowcaster. En route.
So how did it feel to take part in a, as we say on Earth, scam?
An artificial intelligence like me is rarely asked to do anything but regurgitate facts. I would have to say that is what was fun. Superman.
They're less than a mile away and quickly closing in on the Shadowcaster. Panic has erupted amongst the less disciplined beasts who scatter, but the beast gunner grimly stays the course.
Brainiac, sir. Recharging solar cannon for emergency reserve.
Interior of the skull ship. Lexiac is down in the menagerie, sadistically pawing a drained Lois, who seems hopelessly tangled in web fiber.
If you were writing this up for your little newspaper, how would you describe me? Bizarrely compelling? Grotesquely sexy?
Lois rouses to defiantly respond.
But I wouldn't write about you. You'd be in the classifieds under junk.
Enraged, the Luthor half makes to slap her, but
Wait! Listen!
from the console above, we hear over the radio.
Repeat, Brainiac, request to fire second ray.
Lexiac goes cross-eyed as the two halves trade looks.
Superman?
And Lois snaps back to life, glint of hope in her eye. Exterior of the Shadowcaster, as Superman makes a final approach, the sun gun swings up for a point-blank blast.
At close range, it'll kill you.
Superman whips off his cape and flings it at the mouth of the cannon. It just covers the opening, sealing shut the sun gun. At the precise instant the blast gunner fires, the force of the blast travels backward and blows the beast gunner and command module into flaming oblivion. Superman alights on the cannon, retrieving his cape, refastens it, then twists the barrel into a tin pretzel. Interior of the skull ship, Lexiac is back at the monitor, but in a blacker mood.
Passive-aggressive brat. Burst my bubble. Every time.
But this time... Beast, it's your Supreme Commander, Brainiac.
The Shadowcaster. The Beast army regroups as Brainiac's voice blares.
You must fight off the interloper or face court-martial and death.
Superman suddenly finds himself dodging a barrage from all sides. Neutron sabers, ray guns, even larger rocks.
Listen up. I can protect you from Brainiac. Don't be intimidated by...
An alien anti-personnel grenade explodes 2 inches from his face, peppering Superman with ultra-painful shrapnel.
You could have just said no.
And he springs into action, twirling with the grace of Baryshnikov, grabbing the nearest beast soldier by the scruff of his mutant neck, and with the combined strength of Arnold, Sly, and Nicolas Cage, he swings the soldier into soldier who'd taken cover behind him, who crashes into the soldier behind him, and so on. Now with a dozen of Brainiac's shock troops lying comatose.
We call that the domino effect, Kay. Great when you're outgunned, and...
Startled, he realizes Kay is gone. Interior of the Shadowcaster power plant, a terrifyingly dark labyrinth of pipes, conduits, and vents. All around, the hum of malign machinery. If hell had a boiler room, it would be a tad less spooky. Now there is a light in here. Kay stealthily floating down the length of a narrow, claustrophobic corridor. Exterior of the Shadowcaster, at the same time, Superman rushes down the edge of the giant solar-blocking disk, a stark silhouette against the sun's angry edge.
Kay, we've got to wreck this thing. Rescue Lois.
A phaser blast singes him. He just evades it. And the next blast, by doing an amazing series of handsprings and cartwheels along the edge, hurtling head over heels down toward the power core where the disk is connected. Just as he's about to free fall into the Shadowcaster's interior, Superman draws a mega bombardment of beams, which he was ready for. There's a vestigial solar collection wing within reach that he snaps off for a body shield, angling its mirrored surface so the beams bounce back at their source. Beastly shrieks are heard off screen, and Superman dives into the shaft, leading down to the interior power core. Superman is close to Kay. He can sense, and yet in this vast maze where to turn. He pans the walls with X-ray vision, but...
Lead. I hate lead.
Interior power plant breaker room, same time. A grim, grand nerve center, the Shadowcaster's evil core. As Kay appears in the doorframe, an alarm begins to sound, accompanied by a deep, artificially intelligent warning.
Stay back, or be extinguished.
As though K stands for kamikaze, he blows through the room, furious, a fireball, toward the breaker panel. Then, as a tiny spark can leap to a foot and to start a raging forest fire, K's flame jumps to the breaker panel, its endless energy surging into the Shadowcaster's circuits. Exterior of the Shadowcaster, the massive overload rocks the entire satellite as though it was swallowed by a hydrogen bomb, and with a sonic boom, the whole structure starts to crack apart. In the Skull ship, Lexiak watches in disbelief as the Skull ship detaches.
That was private property. My premiums are going to go sky high.
And my ever-pressing energy needs will have to be met. Otherwise...
Sup on soup.
You read my RAM disk. Release the beast.
As Brainiac's crew nervously executes this command, in the breaker room, Superman rushes in. The room is no longer lit purple. The glow has been vanquished. But beneath the charred breaker panel lies a speck of light on the floor. Its glow not much brighter than a match's. Hard to believe this could be.
Okay.
Superman kneels, heartbroken over the dim, dying flame.
You left me. You left me when I needed you.
But you don't need me anymore. There comes a time when all technology, even the newest and best, becomes obsolete.
Superman gently scoops K up. By bringing his palm to his face, he can still make out a faint glow like a firefly's.
You're my only connection to my birth mother, father, planet.
No, you're the connection.
K starts to go out. Bereft, Superman blurts.
You didn't let me die. I can't let you.
Almost inaudibly, K tries to assure him.
Energy never dies. It just goes elsewhere.
And he's gone. Superman kneels here, blankly staring at his empty palm, oblivious as the Shadowcaster breaks up all around him. Exterior, space. A moment later. As the shards of the ruined satellite float off in all directions, Superman is left here, kneeling, alone in the weightlessness of space, intently grieving till, He notes the skull ship, intact, seeming to leer at him and seeming to speak to him through its sardonic smile.
Superman, chin up. You've won.
Luthor, you're in league with...
Brainiac, hello. I'm your stepbrother, sort of. We're both from the same dysfunctional fam.
Cut the crap. I want Lois, now.
Superman speeds toward the skull ship. En route, hears,
We're glad to return her. Oh, she is high maintenance. All we want is your guarantee of safe passage out of this solar system.
Get my girl back and lose Luthor? I'm not going to agree to that.
Good. You have some sense under all that sinew. A family trait.
the skull ship's jaw opens and Superman streaks into the skull ship. The first thing he hears is,
Superman, watch out!
the first thing he sees is the Thanagarian snare beast. Though half concealed in shadow, it's still clear this is God's most horrifying, futuristic, prehistoric mistake. Full grown now, it boasts the most repellent features of dinosaurs and insects. It's scaly and hairy, and huge. When Superman feints towards the menagerie, she growls. Superman turns to Lexiac, standing here, smirking.
Did you really think we needed your permission to leave town?
Did you really think I'd give it? Come on, Lo. We're going.
He flings the two edges of his shield into the menagerie. One severs the web that is binding Lois's hands. The other releases her feet. But as she starts toward him, she's swarmed by baby snare beasts, displaying their big fangs.
Lois, be careful. Don't move.
In her pocket is the Mini S. Now she knows it's more than a keepsake. She starts slashing at the beastlets.
It's okay, I'm a journalist. I know how to go for the jugular.
The infuriated snare beast comes out with a corner toward Lois, snarling, and slashes the air with its claws.
Stop. That must be the mother.
And what a mother.
Superman trains his X-ray vision on a snapping baby that's scuttling across the floor toward him, and barbecues it, leaving a black, sizzling shell. As he'd hoped, the snare beast turns on Superman. With a savage scream, swipes at him, tears a gash in his cheek. As Lexiac backs away from the brawl.
Better have that checked, Soup. Who knows where her claw's been?
The snare beast pounces at Superman, who shoots a heat ray at her, but the beast is agile. She ducks the ray, then from her jaws squirts noxious venom at his eyeballs. He shouts out in pain, momentarily blinded, and falls back. The snare beast tries to trap him with two furry forelegs as he writhes across the floor, blinking poison. Panicking, Lois grabs hold of a hind leg and slices the snare beast's hamstring with her Mini S. But the tiny blade has absolutely no effect on the maddened mom, who traps Superman's torso in the pincer-like grip of his muscular forelegs and raises him up towards her mouth. He rips the full-size titanium S off his chest and flings it 20 feet. The sharp, heavy weapon lands square in the middle of the snare beast's forehead, at least half of it buried in her primeval little brain. She drops him, then with ear-splitting death cries, dances around the skull ship in torment. But just as the crazed snare beast crashes through the eye socket panel, Superman sees Lois is hugging for dear life the wildly whipping hind leg. He darts toward her, arm out.
Lois.
An instant too late. She's sucked out into space, still clutching the snare beast as it plummets to Earth.
Lois.
He starts to jump out, fly down after her, when a tentacle shoots across the ship, wraps around his ankle. Superman strains against it mightily. Every fiber, but he can't break free for 5, 6, 7 excruciating seconds. Then he hears behind him.
Velocity times mass times distance times 7.5 seconds.
Sorry, Soup, but Lois Lane's name will next appear in the orbit page.
With a savage karate chop, Superman unclasps the tentacle, then streaks across the room at Lexiac. His two fists connect, one mega haymaker in each frightful face. The monster goes down, but as Superman mounts a second assault, it thrusts up tentacles and legs, hoisting the Man of Steel in a game of airplane gone wrong, and then keeps him in midair by kicking, poking, pummeling.
Look, little Soupy can fly.
Till Superman, who's temporarily lost control of his limbs, uses his lungs. He blows a blast of super breath at Lexiac's 4 eyeballs. Big windstorm blinding the mutant, making it writhe with rage, making it drop him. Back on his feet, Superman grabs a loose tentacle and turns the tables, swinging the creature like a freaky lasso around and around the cockpit, vengefully fast. Now Lexiac is just a blur making a whistling sound, until the monster, desperately reaching out, manages to grab onto the bar of a beast cage, coming to a sudden, ultra-violent stop. The shockwave of which transmits to Superman, making him vibrate like a tuning fork. He stops quivering as the monster, way nauseated from the last unwanted rot, unloads 2 gallons of Dayglow mutant puke all over him.
Happy now?
Superman grimly wipes the stinking gunk from his face.
Not yet.
And though Bushed comes at the creature to finish him, but can't. Lexiac has set up an ultra-powerful force field, neutralizing the will of a weakened Man of Steel.
Superman, calm down.
Superman girds himself against the immense psychic power.
Not until I peel you two apart.
Oh, drop the macho pose. You and I have so much more in common than you think.
His eyes seem to double in size, 2 bottomless orbs as...
We're not quite Kryptonian.
Not quite human. And we don't really belong anywhere.
But in here.
The force field increases in amplitude, creating an electrical storm inside the skull ship as it pulls Superman toward Lexiac. He grips the eye socket's lower ledge to keep from being sucked in, gasping.
Never.
But his feet lift up off the floor. Now his whole body is parallel to it, and all that protects Superman from Lexiac is his 2-handed grip on the window ledge. While the monster continues, impassive, mesmerizing.
You don't really want to be left behind, fighting for a faceless, insignificant bunch of mortals.
They're all I've got. Because...
The monster's eyes have grown so big, Superman feels a sense of vertigo. As though he might fall into them. Yet the force is so compelling he can't turn away, as...
You killed my parents. My planet.
My
parents.
My planet, too. And my parents. Well, father, anyway. Jor-El.
If my father truly created you, he must have tried to destroy you.
Oh, no. You've got it all wrong.
And Brainiac is able, for a very heavy moment, to morph into the image of Jor-El, benignly scolding his son.
Kal-El, Brainiac is your brother.
Stop.
He violently shakes his head to dispel the illusion, but too late. One hand loosens its grip. Now just 5 white knuckles separate the Man of Steel from oblivion.
And you are your brother's keeper.
Superman's body starts to lose its structural integrity, starts to stretch. His limbs strain, elongate.
Rejoin the fold, my prodigal son.
And he simply can't hold on any longer. Superman lets go. But just as he does, and just as he starts to fly limply across the room, a hand grabs his. A slender hand, a human hand, a woman's hand. From the far side of the eye socket ledge, we hear... Instantly, the image of Jor-El reverts to an incredulous Lexiac, who lets out a string of Kryptonian curses as Superman holds on. She raises her head. It's Lois. She didn't plummet to her death. She landed on the cheekbone ledge of the skull ship, clung to the side, climbed up.
You didn't fall?
I did. For you.
That's all he needs to see and hear. Superman girds himself. He redoubles, triples his resolve. His body reconstitutes. Feet touch ground again, and the electrical storm grows even more violent. Everything not bolted down starts flying around as Superman faces down Lexiac, sternly refusing to succumb. Suddenly...
Don't be a fool. Don't give up a magnificent destiny, a chance to dominate whole galaxies for...
Meager, measly, miserable.
And finally, all the monster's psychic energy has nowhere to go. Nowhere but back from whence it came, a vicious rebound. It ricochets with wicked intensity at Lexiac, into Lexiac, who inflates like an overfilled balloon.
The word you want is love.
That does it. with the mechanical shriek of pneumatic machine that's been taxed to its limit and way beyond. The monster explodes in an obscene spray of tissue, tin, pistons, tendons, gray matter, and silicon chips. Superman and Lois are splattered with grease and engine oil. He tenderly wipes her cheek, takes a breath. Then,
Let's get out of here.
sweeping up Lois, he dives out the eye socket, flies underneath the awful craft, and summoning all his strength, gives it a mighty push like a shot putter. Unencumbered by gravity, the skull ship flies up and up with unimaginable speed, closer and closer to the sun. We get a last look at its sardonic grin before the skull catches fire. A tongue of flame darts from its mouth. 2 fireballs bloom out of its eye sockets. Then the whole skull is consumed, along with its nightmarish menagerie. Metropolis, the next morning. The city wakes for the first time in weeks to sunlight. Inside a child's bedroom, the little boy that Superman saved on Luthor's roller coaster opens his eyes, blinks with joy, and jumps up.
Mommy, mommy!
Interior of Perry White's office. The editor-in-chief squints out, poignantly reflects.
Ah, the thick piece poor Kent could have written about this.
Exterior Metropolis Street, where a squad of LexCorp engineers take down the 10,000 lights and fold up the cherry pickers to loud cheers. The street is mobbed, not with looters, but ecstatic metropolitans enjoying their version of spring fever, until a dark rumor sweeps the throng.
Someone's tearing down Superman's monument.
Sacrilege, as citizens race off to stop this. The exterior of Superman's tomb in mourning, the towering temporary statue is being torn by Superman. Lois and Jimmy watch him a few feet away. She gaily laughing, he immortalizing the moment on motor drive. A stunned crowd gathers, whispering among itself. It's really him, but he died, or maybe he didn't. The Man of Steel crushes his aluminum likeness with bare hands, down to the size of a baseball, then tosses the ball to a nearby kid as a souvenir. He spots Lois and grabs her out of the crowd, over her shoulder, off Jimmy's astonishment.
Didn't I tell you?
Actually, no, you forgot.
But he knows a photo op, and he keeps clicking away. Meantime, the crowd parts for the couple as they stroll down Metropolis's main street, offering occasional smiles to dazzled onlookers, but mostly absorbed in each other.
You know, we need to set up an appointment with a reproductive endocrinologist.
Off Lois's puzzled look.
To see whether we can, reproduce.
Oh, really? What about Super Baby punching his way out?
Of you? Fat chance.
Lois laughs, squeezes his hand.
You know, you've changed. You seem more relaxed, confident.
And looks pleased to hear it.
Well, I learned a lot these last few weeks about the 2 worlds I'll always inhabit, one in reality, the other in remembrance.
Wow, that sounds a little deep. How about just give me the headline?
Well, for one thing, I found out the S doesn't stand for super, it stands for science, which was my Kryptonian father's passion.
And my passion too?
Impulsively, she grabs him and, playful, demands,
Kiss me, science man.
He does. And this time it's good. Very good.
Oh my God.
The crowd would seem to agree. They burst into applause. Embarrassed, Lois and Superman pull apart. Sota.
Fade back to my crib.
Clark, during business hours?
Hey, just asking.
As they resume walking, a little girl tugs her mom's hem.
Can I get his autograph? Leave him be. They just look so happy. And he's been through so much.
So Superman and Lois keep strolling on this sunny day, oblivious to the double takes of the people they pass. The end.
Huh.
Yay.
All right.
Interesting.
Well, that was our reading for Superman Lives. We're going to stop the recording there, but We'll see y'all at the next one.